Chapter 141. After hearing this, the young man's light golden hair became fluffy. Perhaps it could be said that it was standing on end, but because it was too long it could not stand up straight. He was furious and his slender eyes were spitting fire. He felt humiliated. However, just as Hu Xing was about to lash out and retort, he saw Chu Feng's calm and indifferent gaze. He immediately felt as if cold water had been poured over his head. He trembled and swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Hu Xing's whole body went cold. He knew that he was facing a demon king who had killed quasi-kings of the peacock race and the Mount Pan lineage. He was not a pushover. He clenched his teeth, clenched his fists, and shut his mouth. In the end, he did not dare to say a single word. He was afraid that this demon King Chu would kill him in a moment of anger. The humans in the box were all looking at him. No one tried to mediate the situation. It was extremely quiet. Hu Xing was furious, but he did not dare to say a single word. He felt extremely sullen and could not stay in this place any longer. He turned around and left. "Come back!" Chu Feng called after him. The tall and slender Hu Xing's body froze upon hearing this. He stood there motionless with his back facing the door. He was somewhat afraid and angry. What else did the other party want? "Close the door," Chu Feng said. He did not want to make things difficult for this person at first, but he did not have a good impression of this beast race member. He actually dared to speak rudely in front of him, and even brought up whether he should leave Shuntian to avoid the limelight. Hu Xing's body tensed up. He was extremely angry and his face was burning hot. A dignified direct descendant of the royal family was actually being looked down upon. He felt humiliated. However, the next moment, he felt his blood run cold. His sharp intuition had sensed that a prehistoric monster was staring at him from behind. Its cold gaze caused his entire body to shiver. Hu Xing's body was stiff, but in the end, he slowly turned around and closed the box door. He then took large strides and left. He did not want to stay a moment longer. After he was far enough away, he could not help but let out a roar. His chest was about to explode from anger. He hated himself for being so weak just now. He had actually been suppressed to the point of lowering his head and not daring to resist. Afterwards, he was about to go crazy. He wanted nothing more than to turn around and fight that demon to the death. To him, this was a great humiliation. The restaurant was very big. Many people turned around to look at him, revealing strange expressions as they discussed in low voices. A waiter walked over with a smile on his face and said, "Hello, sir, how may I help you?" He politely hinted that there were many customers eating and Hu Xing should keep quiet. "Scram!" Hu Xing said coldly and quickly walked towards a large private room in the distance. Bang! He pushed open the door. There were many handsome or enchanting men and women inside. They were all very young and had a very special temperament. They were all very bewitching. After Hu Xing left, Du Huijin and Ouyang Qing laughed heartily. "Boss, you're like a clear stream." "What do you mean? Are you looking for a beating?" Ouyang Qing said, "I'm not making fun of you. Recently there has been a foul atmosphere. Even some of the major corporations have sent people to make contact with the beast race and express goodwill. Who would dare to berate them directly like boss? Making these young beast race experts bow their heads is simply too delightful." What he said was the truth. The beast race's rise was too violent. They had developed rapidly in a short period of time, causing many major powers to have no choice but to lower their attitudes and eagerly receive them. This was especially true during the crucial period of the contest for the famed mountains. The situation was becoming more and more serious, and no one dared to offend the direct descendants of the beast race royal families. Many people couldn't stand it, but they had no choice. This was the reality. Chen Luoyan said, "We still have to be careful. Recently, the beast race has been very active, especially those young experts. They are quite high profile. Rumor has it that some old fellows have come to Shuntian. In another large private room, Hu Xing was furious. His light golden hair fluttered in the wind as he angrily recounted what had happened. Although it was very embarrassing, he still recounted everything. A young man with a robust physique called Xiong Kuan slammed the table with a fierce glint in his eyes, saying, "A mere quasi-king is acting so ostentatiously. He's going too far. Let's go and demand an explanation from him. Don't be rash. He even dared to kill quasi-kings from the peacock race and Mount Pan lineage. This person is very dangerous." Someone dissuaded. Although this group of young beast race experts were used to being domineering, they were now somewhat apprehensive. After all, Chu Feng had killed so many people that he was a demon king in the eyes of many beast race experts. Hu Xing was dissatisfied and said, "Everyone, I really can't take this lying down. Are we just going to let it go like this?" His expression was unsightly, and his slender eyes were filled with hatred. A yellow-robed lady smiled and said, "He won't be able to prance around for long. He's quite courageous to not escape from Shuntian. Do you think the peacock race and Mount Pan lineage will let him go? Of course not. They will kill him to establish their prestige." Her name was Lu Qing, and her tribe had produced a powerful five-colored deer king. The people in the room all nodded and revealed cold smiles. They had originally come to Shuntian to watch a show. They all knew that the peacock race and Mount Pan lineage would make a big move. They would definitely kill one to set the rules. Actually, it's nothing much. Hu Xing was still unwilling to give up. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He said, "Our tribes all have king-level experts. Let's go together." I don't believe he dares to offend all the king-level experts. He urged the crowd, wanting to vent his anger. "Good, I agree." Xiong Kuan immediately stood up. "Wait a moment, an esteemed guest will be arriving today. Once he arrives, there will be nothing to fear." The yellow-robed lady, Lu Qing, smiled. Her appearance was beautiful, and it was obvious that her status was not low. "Who's coming?" someone asked. Some people knew who the esteemed guest was and revealed smiles. As long as that person arrived, they would no longer have to fear Chu Feng. "Golden Bat," Lu Qing informed the others. "The descendant of the Bat King?" Some people revealed an as expected expression, while others were shocked, their hearts trembling. Golden Bat was a golden-colored bat with profound cultivation. He had been nurtured by the old Bat King and had long since reached the quasi-king level. His strength was unfathomable. Normally, he was feared by others because he liked to drink spiritual blood to promote his evolution. With Golden Bat here, no matter how powerful Chu Feng is, he won't dare to be too overbearing. We will go and demand an explanation from him later. Xiong Kuan laughed. Not long after, the door to Chu Feng's private room was once again pushed open. A group of uninvited people walked in one after another. Du Huijin stood up and raised his voice. "Who are you people? Don't you know this place has been reserved? Why did you barge in? Quasi-King Chu is indeed arrogant. So many of us have come to pay a visit, yet you don't even get up. You are truly unperturbed and calm," someone said in a strange tone, finding fault with him. Chen Luoyan couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Do you people think your status is that high? Why must you let Chu Feng get up to greet you? It's obvious that you all came with hostility. How tyrannical. Are you looking down on us royal families? As expected of Demon King Chu." Someone mocked. Ouyang Qing sneered and said, "You people want to stir up trouble? Don't regret it." "Ha, insolence. Even the person beside you dares to speak to us like this," someone said in a sinister tone. "Are you all courting death?" Chu Feng opened his mouth. His voice wasn't loud and was even quite calm, but it immediately silenced the entire room. Even though he wasn't angry, there was an invisible sense of oppression that caused these people to feel apprehensive. "I've already said that if you dare say another word, I will immediately behead you. You still dare to come? Chu Feng looked at Hu Xing. Being stared at by Chu Feng alone, Hu Xing broke out in a cold sweat. He kept his mouth shut and didn't dare to make a sound. In fact, he hadn't spoken a single word since entering this private room. Since you don't dare to speak, then scram, Chu Feng said in a cold voice. Hu Xing's hair stood on end and his heart palpitated. He cursed himself for not living up to expectations. Why was it that every time he saw Chu Feng, he was like a mouse seeing a cat? His heart was apprehensive, and even he didn't understand why. In truth, this was the spiritual pressure of a king-level expert, causing him to tremble and unable to form any thoughts of resistance. Hu Xing involuntarily retreated out of the private room and stood outside the door. Very soon, he was incomparably ashamed. His face was flushed red and he wanted to walk back. The other foreign race youths saw this and felt ashamed. Their imposing manner was directly weakened. This was too embarrassing. Lu Qing spoke, Quasi-King Chu, your actions are too tyrannical. We came to see you out of goodwill, but we're being reprimanded like this? Although this girl in yellow was not bad-looking, Chu Feng didn't even raise his head. He clinked glasses with Yi Qingru and Chen Luoyan and drank a cup of wine, completely ignoring her. Being ignored, Lu Qing immediately felt awkward. Xiong Kuan's black hair danced in the wind and his eyes were cold. He had always been hot-tempered and was a descendant of the Black Bear King. At this time, he spoke in a cold voice. Isn't it just a quasi-king? Do you really think you're invincible? I think you can't even protect yourself. The Peacock tribe and the Mount Pan lineage will not let you off. Yi Qingru spoke. I advise you to leave quickly. Don't invite trouble for yourselves. What a joke. Who do you think you are to threaten us? Some people were indignant. Do you think I won't dare to touch you because you're all from the royal family? Chu Feng asked without any signs of anger. Lu Qing spoke, Quasi-King Chu, we don't mean anything else. So many members of the royal family have come to invite you for a chat. There's an esteemed guest who wants to have a chat with you. The Black Bear lineage is here. The Rainbow Deer lineage is here. These people introduced themselves. Almost all of them were from the royal family, and even the weakest of them had two quasi-kings. If it were anyone else, they would have been intimidated. At the very least, some of the major corporations would be incomparably apprehensive in front of the royal families. Chu Feng laughed, but his voice was somewhat cold. Are you announcing the dishes for me? Are you going to let me see which clan is more delicious? How dare you blaspheme the various royal families? Xiong Kuan exploded with a frosty expression. Even your ancestors wouldn't dare to speak to me like this. If they knew that you've made enemies for your clansmen, they would probably beat you up first. Chu Feng's voice was gloomy. His eyes were blazing with a terrifying radiance. You dare to make enemies out of the various races? Lu Qing shrieked. At this moment she was incomparably terrified. It was as if she had been targeted by a prehistoric beast. You dare? Some people mustered up their courage and shouted. Chu Feng coldly said, Let me discipline you in your ancestors' stead. When I go to your clan's mountain gate one day, I'll demand a disciplinary fee from them. These people were resentful and felt humiliated. Even the king-level entities of their clans were being ridiculed. However, Yi Qingru, Chen Luoyan, and Ouyang Qing knew that Chu Feng wasn't joking. With his current strength, if he were to go to any clan's mountain gate, they would probably be incomparably nervous. The old weasel was a beast king with 2 severed shackles and knew the imperial sword technique. Yet, he was still killed by Chu Feng. How could an ordinary beast king be his match? You dare blaspheme the royal families when the time comes. Xiong Kuan wanted to shout. In the end, a terrifying spiritual energy pervaded the air with a boom, causing him to tremble in fear. In the end, he simply couldn't bear the pressure. Plop! He directly knelt on the ground, his body trembling uncontrollably. He was shocked. Looking at Chu Feng, His heart was filled with perilous waves. "You!" Lu Qing cried out in alarm. At the same time, a terrifying spiritual energy pervaded the area. These beast races all cried out in fear. Plop, plop. One after another, these people couldn't bear the spiritual pressure. Their faces turned pale, and they either collapsed to the ground or knelt down with their heads lowered. Chu Feng had obtained the imperial sword technique and comprehended spiritual art. He was extremely proficient in the use of spiritual energy. How could these people resist? Oh my God! These people trembled in fear. They wanted to cry out but found that they couldn't open their mouths. They were suppressed to the ground and couldn't move. All of them were scared out of their wits. Not far away, some passers-by were shocked. What was going on? Weren't those the young experts of the beast race? They were all kneeling there. As the news spread, a commotion broke out in the restaurant. Some people even took pictures, but the restaurant manager hurried over and stopped them, advising them to retreat. Everyone knew that something big had happened. Chapter 142. The atmosphere outside the private room became more and more lively. Even the manager of the restaurant couldn't stop the enthusiasm of the crowd. Everyone ran over to watch the commotion. The effect of 1 to 10 was too powerful. Everyone was stunned when they heard that the young experts of the beast race were kneeling in a certain private room. How could they miss it? Xiong Kuan of the Black Bear tribe, Lu Qing of the Five-Colored Deer tribe, and Hu Xing of the Fox tribe were all recognized on the spot. This immediately caused a huge uproar. These were all direct descendants of the royal family. Now, they were obediently prostrating on the ground and were even trembling. Just what had happened to make them so afraid? Some people knew the inside story and knew that Chu Feng was inside the private room. They had seen him enter before. Chu Feng is inside? No wonder. This caused a huge uproar. On the ground, Xiong Kuan, Lu Qing, and Hu Xing were incomparably ashamed. This time, they had lost all face. They wanted nothing more than to find a place to hide. However, their bodies were suppressed here and they couldn't move at all. Their hearts were filled with fear. The rise of the beast race was too rapid. However, they were still afraid of the human race. This was something that had been branded into their bones. After the various races achieved super evolution, they still formed alliances despite being extremely powerful. They were afraid that the human race would retaliate. Oh no, something big has happened. Chu Feng has stirred up trouble again. A group of young experts from the beast race is kneeling in front of him and begging for his forgiveness. On the internet, this news was like a deep water bomb, shocking many people who rarely spoke. They were all dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? Angel Ox had stirred up trouble again? Didn't he just encounter a life-threatening problem? How could he still dare to stir up such a big matter? People couldn't remain calm anymore. They all wanted to know the details. Some photos were posted on the internet. Although they were all from the back, it was confirmed by specialists that the young people kneeling on the ground were all beast race members with great backgrounds. Oh heavens, they are all descendants of the royal family. How could they kneel in such an orderly manner? This is too inconceivable. This scene was like a stormy sea. Everyone was stunned. This was not just 1 or 2 beast race members, but a group of young people with great backgrounds. Many people were speechless. Angel Ox was indeed unyielding, but wasn't he a little too ferocious? He was simply fearless, as if he wanted to poke a hole in the sky. In the eyes of the crowd, he was already in big trouble. The Peacock tribe and the Mount Pan sect both wanted to kill him. Not only did he not escape, he even forced all the princes and grandsons to kneel on the ground. This is very Angel Ox's style. Someone sighed. He couldn't help but sigh. Besides Chu Feng, who else would dare to do this? Even those major corporations had to lower their stance in front of the mutant race royalty. Who knows where Chu Feng is? I want to go there and have a look. Even if I can't be of any help, I have to cheer for him. Someone posted and asked. It's on the 88th floor of the Clearsky Tower. Let's go together. As a result, a large group of people set off, wishing to hurry to the scene. They were extremely powerful. In a private room on the 88th floor of the Clearsky building, the Golden Bat's face was cold as he looked at the familiar faces kneeling on the ground. His eyes shot out two beams of fiery light that were as dazzling as the sun's essence flames, scorching and terrifying. Ordinary bats had poor eyesight, but he was different. He had evolved into a king-level expert and possessed a pair of fiery eyes. The Golden Bat wasn't tall and had a medium build. However, he exuded an oppressive aura just by standing there, causing others to feel apprehensive. There was a terrifying mysterious energy hidden within his body. He was a quasi-king-level expert who could become a true king-level entity at any time. You guys are really promising. He lowered his head and looked at the group of young beast race members. His fiery eyes were resplendent and spewing out scorching golden flames. The Golden Bat had a head of long golden hair, and even his skin had a faint golden luster. His face was as sharp as a knife. It was obvious that he was a resolute quasi-king-level expert. Chu Feng, you're indeed powerful, but aren't you going too far? Do you still want to live after being so disrespectful to the major races? The Golden Bat shouted. He was very powerful and strict when facing Chu Feng. That was because he was also at the quasi-king level and didn't fear this so-called demon King Chu. Chu Feng swept a glance at him and said, if their ancestors knew the truth, they would only feel that my punishment was too light. You don't understand anything, so don't get involved. Impudent! The Golden Bat glared at Chu Feng. The other party was looking down on him, causing his gaze to turn as cold as a blade. You're talking to me, are you tired of living? Chu Feng said in a deep voice. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even the beast race members kneeling on the ground felt their hearts beating like drums. They sighed inwardly at Demon King Chu's domineering attitude. The beast race members on the ground were also somewhat afraid. Although they hoped that the Golden Bat would save them, they were afraid that he wasn't Chu Feng's match because they had experienced firsthand how terrifying Demon King Chu was. If they hadn't been misled into believing that Chu Feng was a quasi-king level expert, they would have long since guessed that he was a king-level entity. In truth, they were already wavering. Could a quasi-king level expert possess such terrifying spiritual energy? They couldn't be sure because they had never fought against a quasi-king level expert before. Others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. It's not like I haven't killed a quasi-king level expert before. You have no right to be so unbridled in front of me. The Golden Bat said coldly. The next moment, two beams of golden flames shot out from his eyes. The temperature was shockingly high as they swept towards Chu Feng. One of the golden sparks flew out and landed on the table, melting the wine glass and evaporating it into a cloud of gas. Chu Feng's right hand was pulsating with a silvery white flame. He easily stretched out his palm and extinguished the golden flames flying towards him without the slightest effort. The Golden Bat's expression was solemn. The sparks from his fiery eyes could melt gold and melt rocks. The temperature of the flames was so high that even quasi-king level experts wouldn't dare face it head-on. Yet, Demon King Chu was able to receive it so easily. Roar! The Golden Bat felt that something wasn't right. He went all out and spat out a golden ripple from his mouth. This was a mysterious energy wave, an innate ability of his race that had evolved to a higher level. Chu Feng let out a light roar containing the Demon Ox sonic art. It wouldn't have mattered if he was the only one here, but Du Huijin, Ouyang Qinghua, and the others couldn't handle it. Thump! The two masses of energy collided in the air. The Golden Bat spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back with a horrified expression. This couldn't be a quasi-king level expert. He immediately realized that everyone had been fooled. His scalp went numb at the thought of this. At the same time, A powerful spiritual energy took advantage of the situation and slashed at him like a sharp sword. The golden bat coughed out another mouthful of blood with a pff. His spirit was injured and he became dispirited. As a quasi-king level expert, he shouldn't have been easily suppressed by spiritual energy. However, his mind was in chaos just now. Additionally, Chu Feng had mastered the imperial sword technique and practiced a spiritual art, allowing him to break through all of his defenses. Ah! The golden bat let out a miserable cry as his head felt like it was splitting apart. In the end, he fell to the ground and prostrated himself there. That's a quasi-king level expert? There were many people in the dining hall who didn't know what to say after seeing this scene. Another beast had joined the ranks of the beast race, and it was a quasi-king level expert. Many people were shaken. Just how powerful was Chu Feng to be able to force a quasi-king level expert to kneel? In an instant, the news spread to the internet with photos as proof. The commotion became even more intense, and everyone was flabbergasted. The matter had blown up. Even a quasi-king level expert has knelt. This caused a huge commotion in the outside world. Everyone was dumbfounded. Just how powerful was Chu Feng? This was a domineering suppression. At this time, the major corporations had also received the news. The upper echelons were all stunned, and the major powers were all shaken. On the 88th floor of the Klersky Tower, the elevator door opened with a soft ding. An old man in traditional Chinese attire walked out with a faint smile on his face. These youngsters are used to being arrogant. It's not a bad thing for them to suffer a loss. I'm sure the Golden Bat will be able to stop that Chu Feng. I'll clean up the mess. No matter what, we can't let a human brat suppress our races. This was a beast king. The reason why the group of beast race youths were so confident was because they knew he had arrived at Shantian. The old man approached. Although he wasn't very tall, his aura was quite imposing. He parted the crowd and arrived in front of the private room, only to be stunned. Even the Golden Bat had knelt? At the same time, he felt his hair stand on end and his scalp go numb. This was the kind of warning that one would feel when facing an expert of the same level. His eyelids twitched uncontrollably. A king-level entity was supporting that brat? Suspiciously, he looked into the room and saw Chu Feng smiling at him with his snow-white teeth. Chu Feng's expression was calm and peaceful. Swoosh! The old man's hair stood on end. He immediately realized that the so-called king-level entity was none other than this Chu Feng. This was simply shocking. His body was strong and nimble. He retreated far away, putting enough distance between himself and Chu Feng. He felt that this young man was too dangerous, so much so that even a veteran king-level expert like him was apprehensive. Prince Yen. The Golden Bat cried out. Although he was in great pain and was forced to kneel, he was still able to speak. The others were shocked upon hearing this. Was this a king-level entity? The people in the dining hall were all frightened out of their wit. Only a few courageous ones were slowly retreating, eager to see the final outcome. The internet had exploded. Someone had posted that Chu Feng had encountered a beast king. Many people felt that Chu Feng was in grave danger. There was no way he could be a match for a beast king. He should have left long ago, but now a calamity had befallen him. The internet was in an uproar. Many people couldn't remain calm. What happened? Who's there? Please inform us of the outcome. Some people were anxious, eager to know the final outcome. A dumbfounded photo was posted. The old man was actually cupping his fists towards Chu Feng. His attitude was humble, and he didn't look like a beast king at all. All of you, get up and apologize to Chu Feng. Inside the private room, the old man kicked the beasts away one by one, allowing them to move temporarily. He then berated them and demanded their apologies. Xiong Kun, Lu Qing, Hu Sheng, and the others were all dumbfounded. This old man actually wanted them to bow and apologize to Chu Feng. This was too shocking. Wasn't he just a quasi-beast king? How did he become a true king-level entity? Just the thought of it made them tremble. Their previous provocation was simply courting death. "I'll spare you this time, but there won't be a next time," Chu Feng said. It was as if a nuclear bomb had been dropped on the internet, triggering terrifying waves. Almost everyone was shaken. Chu Feng was a king-level expert? This was too shocking. In the blink of an eye, the internet was in an uproar. Now that Chu Feng has become a king-level entity, he might not be afraid of the Mount Pan lineage. I really want to know how that old weasel is going to make Chu Feng apologize. People were incomparably excited as they discussed fervently. Even the major corporations were stunned. The upper echelons were flabbergasted, and their hearts were pounding. At the same time, they were somewhat suspicious. Very soon, another piece of news exploded on the internet. This explosive news is like a grade 18 hurricane sweeping through the world. Heavens, it's unbelievable! Mount Pan has been flattened. Oh my God, is this true? Chu Feng single-handedly conquered Mount Pan and killed the Beast King there. The whole world was in an uproar. This news was too shocking. Within the Hollow Jade Temple, Lu Tong revealed the truth at the right time, shaking the whole world. Chapter 143. This was truly earth-shattering. Who would have thought that the Peacock race and the Mount Pan lineage would cause such a commotion when they wanted to kill Chu Feng? The whole world was in an uproar. Where was the Mount Pan lineage? And where was that Beast King? All of them had been wiped out by Chu Feng. This news was like a bolt of lightning from the 9 heavens, shaking the earth and shaking the world. Another king-level expert had emerged from the human race. He killed a powerful Beast King in a clean and efficient manner and conquered a famed mountain all by himself. I can't believe it. Not to mention the ordinary people, even the upper echelons of the corporations were sighing. They were all dumbfounded. They had never expected such an outcome. They were all dumbfounded when they first heard the news. How long had it been? Chu Feng had already broken through the shackles of his body and become a true king-level entity. Many people were regretting their decision. If they had known he had such great potential, they would have interacted with him a long time ago. This was much better than receiving the descendant of a Beast King. At such a young age, Chu Feng was already able to stand on equal footing with the Beast Kings of the various regions. He possessed the terrifying ability to conquer famed mountains and the power to massacre entire cities. Who wouldn't want to win such a person over to their side? As expected of immortal Chu, the Beast King of the Mount Pan lineage sent him to beg for forgiveness, but what happened in the end? He threw his life away for daring to provoke immortal Chu. The Beast King of a generation was beaten to death. Many people were laughing heartily. They had seen the beast race behaving domineeringly these past few days. They had tried to kill Chu Feng and then harmed his parents. In the end, they even wanted him to beg for forgiveness. It was truly infuriating. But now, Chu Feng had ascended Mount Pan and flattened the entire famed mountain, killing an entire tribe of soldiers. Some pictures had already been circulated, and everyone was stunned. The gigantic weasels had all been shot down with a single arrow. It was truly a shocking sight. Especially the Beast King, who had been blasted into pieces and stained the mountain with its blood. The scene was even more shocking. Are those beast race experts scared to death? Chu Feng has risen to power and is now a true king-level expert. Will those arrogant beast race experts still dare to show their faces? How brave! This battle is of great significance. I think many of the beast race members have been intimidated. Everyone was very happy because this battle had produced a world-shaking might. Any beast race that wanted to stir up trouble would have to think twice first. The whole world was shocked. The impact of this matter was too great. Chu Feng single-handedly suppressed an entire race and completely annihilated the Mount Pan bloodline. Not only did this cause a huge uproar in human society, Everyone was discussing this matter. Even among the beast race, it had caused a tsunami. This incident had a huge impact on them. As the saying goes, the fox mourns the death of the rabbit. The death of a beast king directly shocked many experts, causing the beast kings of the various regions to feel threatened. Their bodies shivered. This is an extremely dangerous person. Once you touch his bottom line, he'll be ruthless and merciless. He can't be provoked easily. Usually, he's harmless to humans and animals. His smile is very bright when he looks at the photos. If you can become his friend, you can even drink and chat merrily. Within such a short period of time, information on Chu Feng had appeared on some of the Beast King's desks. They were carefully studied to understand his character and bottom line. Any king-level entity was worthy of the attention of every race, especially Demon King Chu. This battle was too bloody. He had actually annihilated an entire race. Not to mention the ordinary beast race, even the beast kings were apprehensive. They were all worried about the consequences of clashing with Chu Feng. Apparently, Chu Feng's display of might had been effective. Everyone knew that he had charged into Mount Pan in anger for his parents. He had flattened the mountain's stronghold and defeated the beast king there. Some people realized that targeting Chu Feng's family was even more serious than directly opposing Chu Feng. As long as Chu Feng was still alive, they could not touch his parents. The human side was naturally evaluating the situation. The major corporations mobilized all kinds of resources to understand the details of the battle at Mount Pan. At the same time, they immediately dispatched people to make contact with Chu Feng. This kind of king-level expert must be roped in no matter what. In celestial biology, some members of the Lin family were having a discussion. A hale and hearty old man with pale golden skin said, "I want to know who was it that wanted to stop Chu Feng from approaching Naoi. Such a good son-in-law was chased away by you people. Your eyesight is too shallow. What do you think now?" "Granduncle, please don't be angry. We didn't interfere at that time. Besides, who can control Naoi? No one dares. Naoi has her own ideas. If she feels that it's better to be friends with Chu Feng, then let her be. None of us can guess what's going on, and we don't dare to interfere. Besides, she might leave us one day." Within the conference room, their voices were very low. Outside, Su Wani's face was pale. She was truly scared out of her wits. She had never imagined that Chu Feng had already severed one of his shackles and become a king-level expert. This was like a bolt from the blue to her. When Chu Feng's accomplishments were exposed, her vision turned dark and she almost fainted. Now, she could neither eat nor drink. Within Bodhi biogenetics, some people were also discussing this matter. A silver-haired old man said with a smile, "I heard that Luotian and Demon King Chu are very close. Not long ago, the two of them even had a meal together in secret. In the end, they were caught red-handed and even reported. Shouldn't we try to matchmake them?" The group of people felt like wiping off their sweat. How could this old man mention such a sensitive topic? Did he think that Jiang Luotian was really resting in the family? If she were to find out about this, wouldn't she get angry at the old man and tear off his beard? "Second Master, this matter can be discussed. It's best if you personally find an opportunity to bring it up with Luotian." A middle-aged man in his 30s said. He was the youngest among the upper echelons. Everyone glared at him. Even Jiang Luotian's father was casting sidelong glances at him. He felt that this younger brother of his was too childish. Was he trying to make Jiang Luotian and the old man fight? "I think it's possible, but we have to do it step by step," someone else said. The Tonggu Alliance, the Extraterrestrial Research Institute, and the Preqin Research Institute were all moving quickly. Even if they couldn't invite Demon King Chu to their side, they would at least try to get closer to him. An existence that could defeat a beast king would be worshipped by the major powers wherever he went. He was worthy of being roped in at all costs. The Buddha's disciples and Leizhenzi were the foundations of the major powers. and now, Chu Feng could sit on equal footing with them. That day, not to mention Chu Feng's communicator, even his parents were ringing off the hook. Chu Feng turned off his communicator and rested for the night at home. Afterwards, he hid in the hollow jade temple to comprehend the imperial sword technique. He was very clear that all the praise and olive branches were based on his strength. If he couldn't defeat the Beast King of Mount Pan, then everything would be rewritten. Perhaps he would already be dead. The imperial sword technique can be called a spiritual object manipulation technique. Chu Feng sat cross-legged in the training room and muttered to himself. Swoosh! A scarlet sword flew past like a bolt of red lightning. It was simply too fast. Chu Feng controlled it. This was a type of spiritual art. The palm-sized scarlet flying sword slashed horizontally and vertically, enveloping a radius of 100 meters. Swoosh! The red coral-like flying sword was sparkling and resplendent. Chu Feng was becoming more and more proficient with it. He felt that his strength had increased by a large margin. Clang! He used his spiritual energy to control the flying sword and slashed at a distant cold weapon rack. Amidst the clanging sounds, a row of refined iron spears was cut in half. The flying sword was incomparably sharp and was flowing with a scarlet mist. Chi! Following that, under the control of his spiritual energy, the scarlet sword descended and easily cut open a 2-meter-thick steel wall. The cut surface was smooth and clean. The so-called imperial sword technique is to use spiritual energy to control a sword. This is its true nature. The myths and legends only exaggerated it, Chu Feng muttered to himself. He was very clear-headed. He did not deify the imperial sword technique. It could be called a spiritual art. If he really practiced according to the myths and legends, he would only be misled. In reality, using spiritual art to control objects was not limited to flying sword. It could also be short spears, flying halberds, and so on. Boom! He used his spiritual energy to move a bronze cauldron and smashed it into the distance with terrifying power. Chu Feng's body shook and he felt dizzy. Controlling such a heavy object in such a way broke through the sound barrier and surpassed the speed of sound. However, it consumed a lot of spiritual energy. He had to rest for a while to recover. Objects that are too heavy are not suitable for me to use as weapons at this stage. I can consider it when my spiritual energy is stronger. He weighed the scarlet sword in his hand. It was not heavy at all. He did not know what material it was made of, but it was much lighter than any metal. It was similar to a wooden sword. However, it was extremely hard and indestructible. It could fight against the heavy black short sword without being damaged at all. It seems that spiritual weapons are very particular. They need special materials to be forged. Ordinary forces cannot find them. At the very least, he had never seen such a material before. He did not need to think too much to know that this material was extremely rare and priceless. Chu Feng got up and stopped practicing spiritual arts. He started practicing the demon ox fists of great strength. Immediately, he felt his body warm up. Even his spiritual energy was gradually replenished. It was extremely comfortable. All the spiritual energy he had expended earlier had been replenished. This made him realize something. Physical fist techniques and spiritual arts. Alternating the two seems to be quite effective. Chu Feng was surprised. Following this, he continued to experiment. Alternating physical fist techniques and spiritual arts, the results were surprisingly good. His king-level physical body glowed and his spiritual energy was dazzling. The two can promote each other. He revealed a smile. Soon after, Chu Feng learned about the special breathing technique. The more he learned about it, the more terrifying it was. It is too mysterious. In the past, it was only the physical body that breathed. But during the battle at Mount Pan, even the spiritual energy could be breathed. This breathing technique was equivalent to a combination of physical fist techniques and spiritual arts. As long as one could master it, both the physical body and spiritual energy could achieve a super-evolution. Chu Feng carefully studied it. He spent the next 2 days in seclusion within the hollow jade temple. His gains were great, and his strength was increasing rapidly. The outside world was in an uproar. During Chu Feng's absence, all parties were searching for him, hoping to get in touch with him. In the end, Lu Tong couldn't take it anymore. He went to find Chu Feng and told him that he couldn't hold on any longer. The old man had had enough. He was about to be annoyed to death. Even if he brought out the golden name of the Hollow Jade Temple, he wouldn't be able to hold on. It was also at this time that an expert from the beast race spoke out. There was actually a beast king who threatened to deal with Chu Feng. Following which, the Peacock King also declared that the quasi-beast king of his race would not die in vain. Following which, another beast king from the Old Weasel's alliance issued a warning. Almost at the same time, the Hollow Jade Temple Master spoke from the faraway pilgrimage ground. Anyone who dares to act rashly will be executed. The 8 Visions Temple Master's words were very simple. Exterminate. The roaming Jade Temple Master's killing intent soared to the heavens. Kill, 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 kill. Following which, the Taiji Grandmaster, who had single-handedly taken down Mount Wudong, also stood out. He declared that if they dared to touch Chu Feng, it would be equivalent to declaring war on him. In a short period of time, the 4 peak experts of the human race voiced their support, shaking the world. At this time, Chu Feng himself also stood out. He walked out of the Hollow Jade Temple and conveyed his resolute will to all parties. Chapter 144. The world was in turmoil. The 4 peerless experts of the human race had all declared their stance. In addition to Chu Feng's power, all the beast kings were intimidated. Who would dare to act rashly? Who didn't know how terrifying the 8 Visions Temple, Hollow Jade Temple, and Roaming Jade Temple Lords were? If they really wanted to target an entire race, they would definitely be able to exterminate it in no time. Now they were fighting the Beast King Alliance. Among them were the Peacock King, the Golden Crow King, the 9 Lives Cat King, and other troublesome king-level entities. Even so, they were about to take down the pilgrimage ground. Who wouldn't be afraid of the Taiji Grandmaster, who had single-handedly taken down the famed Mount Wudong? This was like a grade 18 hurricane sweeping through the world, shaking the entire human world. Many people felt their blood vessels expand as a warm current surged through their bodies. If you're not convinced, then come and fight. Chu Feng's words directly challenged the restless and powerful beast kings. This caused the already clamorous outside world to become even more turbulent. That's right, whoever is not convinced can come out and wait for Immortal Chu to flatten the mountain and destroy the stronghold. I think another beast king wants to be beheaded. Wash your necks and wait. But Immortal Chu must leave its corpse intact this time. Don't blow it up again, the pictures will be too scary. Many people echoed his sentiments, wanting nothing more than to follow him into battle. After several human kings stepped out, everyone's emotions were stirred up and their fighting spirits soared. In the end, the beasts became apprehensive. Even the black bear, who was the first to speak up, felt his hair stand on end. He was afraid that the human kings would come knocking on his door and kill him. Not long ago, a group of Beast King descendants had been forced to kneel by Chu Feng on the 88th floor of the Clearsky Tower. Among them was the Black Bear's descendant, Xiong Kuan. This time, it was precisely because Xiong Kuan had cursed Chu Feng and complained to the Black Bear that he was the first to step out. At the same time, it felt that the Peacock King would not swallow this anger and would seek revenge by killing Chu Feng. Thus, it was almost opportunistic to jump out and express goodwill to the Peacock King. However, in the evening, a beast king on Mount Kunlun opened its mouth and let out a thunderous roar. Chu Feng is my bull demon's brother. Who dares touch him? The Black Yak stood out and strongly expressed his support for Chu Feng. Of course, this was instigated by the Yellow Cattle. It was forced to show its support so that it could not drop the ball at this crucial moment. Moreover, Yellow Cattle recorded it with his communicator and immediately released a video of the big black yak's roar, spreading it across the internet in no time. This caused an uproar. It was because it was impossible for this to not cause a commotion even if one didn't want to. This was a beast race expert, a terrifying beast king. He actually stood on Chu Feng's side and spoke up for him. At the same time, the black yak was also a famous beast, nicknamed the Bull Demon. He had an important role in Demon Bull the Great Sage, so he was far from being a household name. Everyone knew that he was a ruthless fellow, one of the earliest beast kings to appear. In the video, the Bull Demon's body was like a small mountain. He was simply too huge, and his entire body was jet black. His roar was like a sudden clap of thunder, shaking the heavens and earth. Everyone who saw the video felt their hearts skip a beat. By now, he had definitely evolved again. There was no need to think about it. He was definitely a terrifying expert. Lord Bull Demon, you're truly a great hero who can support the heavens and earth. We support you marrying the White Snake Fairy. Last time, you moved me to tears. Someone left a message on the internet. The first half of the message was fine. The black yak was happy to see it and was secretly laughing while hugging his communicator on Mount Kunlun. But when he saw the latter half, he was dumbfounded. What was going on? Moo! Damn Director Joetian, I'll tear you to pieces sooner or later. A movie ruined my life. What are you crying for? The black yak was furious. In truth, the black yak's stand was too great. As a beast race expert, he was standing on Chu Feng's side. This made many beast kings puzzled. Bull Demon, what's the meaning of this? The black bear questioned. At first, he was quite domineering and could be considered an old beast king in the western region. After all, he was the first one to stand out and threaten Chu Feng. In the end, he was warned by several powerful experts. Black Bear, how dare you question this king? If you don't accept it, I'll pay you a visit tomorrow and teach you how to be a beast. The black yak threatened. The black bear immediately felt guilty. Previously, he was just putting on a strong front. He wanted to make a fuss, but the black yak didn't care at all. Moreover, the black yak began to discuss with the yellow cattle about how to destroy the black bear. One had to know that the yellow cattle was also a beast king. If the two of them worked together, which beast king would be able to stop them? In the end, the news was leaked that night. That was because Mount Kunlun didn't have just one beast king. There was a whole group of them, and they were all incomparably powerful. That night the black bear couldn't sleep. He was so scared that his face almost turned green. He almost ran away. As a fellow from the western region, he knew very well how terrifying those vicious beasts on Mount Kunlun were. At the very least, he wasn't qualified to climb the mountain. At present, Mount Kunlun was the #1 holy land of the beast race. No beast race alliance could compare to it. Everyone there was the first to rise after the upheaval. Bull Demon, you've misunderstood me. I don't have anything against you. This old bear only had a cheap mouth. Don't take it to heart. What happened next stunned everyone. The black bear apologized that very night. He was a model of a man who knew when to yield and when to stand tall. His attitude was humble and his stance was extremely low. Moreover, the black bear hung up his grandson Xiong Kun and gave him a vicious beating. He even recorded a video saying that he had been misled by Xiong Kun. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. Everyone was dumbfounded when this news came out. Is this true? Everyone was dumbfounded. They simply couldn't believe it. Many people were speechless. They didn't know what to say. This black bear changed his attitude too quickly. Not to mention the humans, even the beast kings were looking down on the black bear. This fellow was too cowardly. He had been scared off by the big black yak. This king will spare you for the time being, Bull Demon said. The next day, Yellow Cattle found another beast king from Mount Kunlun to support Chu Feng. His terrifying voice shook Mount Kunlun. This time, everyone calmed down. No one was willing to stand out. At the very least, they wouldn't act tough on the surface. The two beast kings of Mount Kunlun had spoken. People guessed that this meant that all the beast kings of Mount Kunlun had the same attitude. Without a doubt, this was a huge earthquake. Yellow Cattle had invited two beast kings to take action. This caused all parties to be apprehensive and caused huge waves to surge to the sky. It wasn't just the beast kings who didn't understand, even the humans were stunned. Immortal Chu is too strong. He eats from both sides. Finally, someone couldn't help but say such words. Don't talk nonsense. What do you mean by both sides? That's true. The Wudong Grandmaster is definitely from the side of the righteous path. Look at that big black yak, he's so dark. He's threatening and intimidating. He's definitely from the underworld. The group of people was speechless after hearing this explanation. The big black yak saw the people's comments on Mount Kunlun and was fuming with anger. How did he become a member of the underworld? He had always boasted that he was a sacred fetus and would become a sage ancestor. The ordinary people joined in the fun. They were happy to see the beast kings supporting Chu Feng. The major corporations were re-evaluating Chu Feng's strength. He actually had friendly relations with the beast kings. The outside world was in turmoil. Chu Feng had calmed down. He practiced his fist techniques and studied spiritual arts in order to increase his strength. At the same time, he was in close contact with Yellow Cattle and the others. They were discussing various related matters. The big black yak was dissatisfied. He urged, "What are you waiting for? Brat, you're already so powerful. Why aren't you moving? I dream of the Vatican every night." Chu Feng replied, "I've been busy lately. Many people are looking for me. Moreover, I want to train my spiritual arts to a higher level. That way I'll be more secure." At the same time, he told the two oxen that they wouldn't have to travel long distances to the west. There was a misty valley between the Sichuan and Yunnan Guizhou plateau. If they passed through it, they would reach Europe. "Don't worry, we know what to do. There's also a passage here. We're just waiting for you," the big black yak said. "Chu Feng, come quickly. I'll bring you around Mount Kunlun. Perhaps you'll reap great rewards." Yellow Cattle winked at him, hinting at something. "Calf, don't steal other people's fruit. Since we've already set up a territory, we must abide by the rules," the big black yak warned. "Very well, wait until I've mastered the Imperial Sword Flight technique. I'll cross the void and find you," Chu Feng said. Yellow Cattle was dumbfounded after hearing this. "What's wrong?" Chu Feng looked at the Yellow Cattle in the video and revealed a doubtful expression. "Are you stupid? Since you can use spiritual power, why would you need to use the Imperial Sword Flight technique? You can just fly by yourself," Yellow Cattle said. Chu Feng was stunned. He then sighed. In the end, he had been influenced by the myths and legends. Yellow Cattle's voice was very tender. "But I'm warning you, unless your spiritual power is exceptionally strong, you'd better not try. It'll consume too much energy. Come quickly, I'll teach you well," Yellow Cattle added. He was quite proud when he said these words. He had the appearance of a teacher. The big black yak was the most anxious. He urged, "Come quickly, I've found another helper. We'll kill our way to the Vatican together. We'll definitely reap great rewards. Just think about the sacred medicinal garden, the dancing petals, the millions of rays of multicolored light, and the fluttering pollen. As long as you enter, you'll be able to break through continuously. It's time for you to move. Also, let me tell you, actual combat is the only shortcut to increasing your strength. There are many powerful beast kings there. When the time comes, use your flying sword to kill them. Only by bathing in the king's blood can you become a peerless overlord," the big black yak hooted. Chu Feng was completely moved by these words. He decided to set out immediately. He told Chu Xuan and Wang Jing that he was going into seclusion and wouldn't be returning home for a while. He didn't dare tell them that he was going to the west. Otherwise, they would probably be worried again. Europe was too far away. After the upheavals, it was almost impossible for ordinary people to travel back and forth. "You're going to the west?" Lu Tong was shocked after hearing this news. He warned Chu Feng solemnly that the Vatican's sacred medicinal garden wasn't an easy place to enter. Many beast kings had already died there. It's said that some of the gods in the West crawled out from that sacred medicinal garden. To be more precise, they were planted there. Lu Tong reported this shocking news. Chapter 145. Some of the Western gods had crawled out of the ground, and this indeed attracted Chu Feng's attention. He yearned for this ancient medicinal garden. "Oh right, how's Zhao Yu?" Chu Feng asked. He had long since confirmed that there was something fishy about this person. The reason he was so accurately intercepted by the Peacock Quasi-King was because of this person's flight information. Zhao Yu even coveted the mutant fruit that Lu Tong had gifted to Chu Feng. His heart was dark and ruthless, and he had wanted to use the Peacock race and the Mount Pan lineage to eliminate Chu Feng. Squeezing out the remaining value and unleashing the last of his remaining energy, Lu Tong informed with a smile on his face. Zhao Yu's fate had already been decided. After unleashing the last of his energy, he would be executed by Lu Tong. Chu Feng returned to the sealed stone room and once again practiced his spiritual arts. He attempted to transport himself into the air and finally succeeded. Although he was swaying violently, he was still able to hover in the air. He tried to increase his speed, but the result was that he was almost sent flying. 2 days later, after countless experiments, Chu Feng gave up and shook his head. He tried many times to increase his speed, but in the end, he crashed into the weapons rack and then into the steel wall, causing him to grimace in pain. This path was blocked. Chu Feng weighed the bright red flying sword in his hand. It was as red as coral and seemed indestructible, but it was also extremely light and agile. It didn't seem like a metal sword at all. It was also because of this that controlling this palm-sized flying sword with spiritual energy was as easy as controlling an arm. Comparatively speaking, Chu Feng's body was too heavy. Moving himself and increasing his speed consumed too much spiritual energy, and the gains did not make up for the losses. It was even faster to run on the ground. Although he couldn't fly very fast, he could hover in the air for a short period of time. This way, he wouldn't have to worry about an air crash. If the situation was really bad, he could just jump off the plane. Chu Feng packed up and prepared to meet up with the 2 oxen at Mount Kunlun. The journey was too long, so Lu Tong had already booked a flight for him to take off early the next morning. "Demon King Chu, I've come to Shuntian." Jiang Luoshan dialed Chu Feng's communicator. "Aren't you taking care of your pregnancy at home? Why are you here again?" Chu Feng replied. Jiang Luoshan was extremely displeased. What was he talking about? What was he talking about again? If it were anyone else, they would have been blacklisted immediately. But this time, she came with a request, so she ignored it and said in a businesslike manner, "It's the same as last time. We want to use the mutant soil to exchange for the quasi-king blood. Of course, this time, we want the real king blood." Now that everyone in the world knew that Chu Feng had killed a beast king and conquered Mount Pan, countless people were thinking about it. Bodhi Biogenetics naturally wanted to research the body of a beast king. "I don't have much time. How about this? I'll see you tonight. If you want to talk, show me your sincerity. Don't waste my time," Chu Feng said. Jiang Luoshan's forehead was full of black lines. She really couldn't tolerate this. She was called the national goddess. Although her charm wasn't invincible, it wasn't to the extent that people would dislike her this much, right? "Demon King Chu, do you know how to speak?" Do you really think I'm in a hurry to see you? Jiang Luotian clenched her teeth. She had the urge to beat him up. Normally, a casual glance from her would have people at her beck and call. But now, she had taken the initiative to interact with a man, only to be treated this way. Relax, calm down, take a deep breath and pretend he's just air. Jiang Luotian tried to control her emotions, but in the end, she still couldn't help but curse. Chu Feng laughed dryly and said, "Aren't I busy? I have to hurry on my way tomorrow morning, and I have all kinds of trivial matters to attend to. What's more, every time I'm with you, I can't eat mutton and I'll get smelly. The gains don't make up for the losses." "What do you mean?" Jiang Luotian's voice rose an octave. At this time, she was leaning back on a comfortable chair, not looking very ladylike. A pair of snow-white long legs were placed on the boss's desk, completely different from her usual goddess-like demeanor. "Don't worry, you can treat me to mutton tonight. Pervert, go to hell!" Jiang Luotian shouted. In the end, she found that the other party had the foresight to hang up immediately, not even listening to the rest of her sentence. Shameless demon King Chu. Jiang Luotian was so angry that she wanted to smash something. She straightened her body and retracted her long legs, almost kicking over some of the exquisite ornaments on the table. "Luotian, you're only 22 years old, you haven't even reached menopause yet. Why is your temper so bad lately?" Xia Qinyu walked in, giggling and ridiculing her. Normally, Jiang Luotian was not like this. She was shrewd and capable, always wearing a charming smile on her face. How could she be like this? Jiang Luotian's fair face was full of resentment. She said, "When a scholar meets a soldier, it's hard to reason things out. Why am I so unlucky to be sent to meet Demon King Chu? Don't you know what kind of person he is? The blind date with you was so infuriating." "Stop talking." Xia Qinyu immediately interrupted and changed the topic. "That blind date was too embarrassing. Luotian, something's wrong. Bodhi Biogenetics has so many people, why did they send you to meet Demon King Chu? Could it be that they're trying to set you up with him?" Xia Qinyu was suspicious. "Bad friend, what are you talking about?" Jiang Luotian glared at her. Her beautiful eyes were full of killing intent. "Luotian, you're usually so shrewd, but your eyelashes are empty. You've been fooling those people around. What's wrong with you recently? Oh, I know, don't tell me you've really fallen for him?" Xia Qinyu giggled and teased. Jiang Luotian said angrily, "Bad friend, only you can think of something like this. I've always wanted to beat him up, but I never had the chance. But since you dare to provoke me like this, you must go tonight. I'll try to set you up again." "I won't go even if you beat me to death," Xia Qinyu shouted. However, she was still dragged along by Jiang Luotian that night. No matter what, she insisted on bringing her to the Qilin Tower. Jiang Luotian had already booked a place for dinner. Of course, the smile on her face was not very big. She was the one who had made the reservation, and that demon King Chu did not even mention it. Normally, it was others who had booked the private room in advance and waited for her arrival. But now, everything was reversed. The two girls arrived first. They were drinking tea in the room while waiting for Chu Feng. "Why isn't this guy here yet?" Xia Qinyu was dissatisfied. "Chu Feng, where are you? What? Have you forgotten? You?" Jiang Luotian's pale face had almost turned black. She almost lost her temper. "He's forgotten?" Xia Qinyu cried out. "He's on his way," Jiang Luotian replied. Chu Feng had indeed forgotten. He had been too focused on studying spiritual arts and controlling objects. He had made breakthroughs and his imperial sword technique had already surpassed the old weasel's. Now, his strength could be said to have skyrocketed. "This way, the journey to the west will be much safer," Chu Feng muttered to himself. Then, he hurried out. He was indeed a bit embarrassed. It was not that he was late on purpose, but he had been too engrossed in studying the imperial sword technique. The restaurant chosen by Jiang Luotian was quite famous. Not only was the food delicious, but the ingredients were also astonishing. Many of them were brought out from the desolate mountains by mutants. This restaurant was comparable to the one on the 88th floor of the Clearsky Tower. It was the most famous restaurant in Shuntian. Obviously, Jiang Luoshan was too famous. She had already been discovered dining here. Even though she had covered herself up, one of the waiters had still revealed her identity. "Hello, Goddess Jiang. I'm Lu Tuo from the Jiang Feng Corporation." Very soon, a young and handsome man arrived. He politely and attentively greeted her and gave her 2 business cards. Xia Qinyu was surprised. She naturally knew about this corporation. This Lu Tuo was actually one of its directors. He was too young. His identity must be extraordinary. Otherwise, he would not have dared to come here so rashly. "Hello, Chief Lu. But I'm waiting for someone," Jiang Luoshan said. At this level, he naturally would not pester her. Lu Tuo stood up and did not stay for long. However, this was only the beginning. Within a short period of time, 4 or 5 groups of people had arrived. Jiang Luoshan could not bear it any longer. How long was this damned demon King Chu going to be late? Especially in the end, there were a few people who refused to leave. None of them were willing to leave first. They kept pestering Jiang Luoshan, and all of them had extraordinary identities. Jiang Luoshan was extremely annoyed, but she could not show it on her face. She also could not directly chase them away, so she could only entertain them perfunctorily. Among them was someone from the Mu family of celestial biology. His name was Mu Zhua, and he was also from a major corporation. He felt that his status was not lower than Jiang Luoshan's, so he was very cordial. In fact, Mu Zhua was very unhappy. He had come to Shuntian with Mu Tian to see Chu Feng fall, but in the end, Chu Feng had become a king. Mu Tian had become a mutant 21 years ago. His strength was unfathomable, but he still had not made a move against Chu Feng. This made Mu Zhua somewhat unhappy. However, he could not do anything about it. After all, Mu Tian was the elder brother of the deceased Mu Tian. Mu Zhua came here for dinner that night. He happened to see Jiang Luoshan and immediately walked over. Part of the reason was the national goddess's alluring appearance, but the most important reason was that he had heard all kinds of rumors about Jiang Luoshan and Chu Feng. He wanted to stir up some trouble and humiliate Chu Feng. Even if he could not do anything with Jiang Luoshan, it would be enough to make a big deal out of it and disgust Chu Feng. After that, he would keep a low profile and hide in celestial biology. Would Demon King Chu come to settle accounts with him because of some gossip? Therefore, after seeing Jiang Luoshan, Mu Zhua's eyes lit up with passion and he immediately walked over. Unfortunately, Jiang Luoshan was not interested in him at all. Mu Zhua did not dare to step out of line, but he still stood there and refused to leave. This gave the others a reason to stay. "Oh, it's quite lively over there. How come that woman is so beautiful? It's really rare." A few people walked over and were about to enter their private rooms when they discovered Jiang Luoshan and Mu Zhua. "She looks familiar. Oh right, I remember now. Isn't that the woman known as the national goddess? I didn't expect her to be even more beautiful in person." The group stopped in their tracks. They were all Beast Race members and all of them were familiar faces. It was Hu Xing, Lu Qing, and Xiong Kuan. Xiong Kuan was covered in white bandages and his body was covered in wounds. 2 days ago, he had been beaten half to death by his grandfather, the Black Bear. He had recorded a video of the incident for the Black Yak to see and apologized. Xiong Kuan had a bellyful of anger and was extremely angry. He had originally gone to complain, but the result was so tragic that he had rushed back from the western region. He had run away from home and reunited with his group of Beast Race friends. Speaking of which, today was a welcoming party for him. They consciously avoided the Clearsky Tower and did not want to go there anymore. They didn't even want to talk about it. They didn't want to recall the events of the past 2 days. Don't provoke this woman. I heard she has something to do with that person. One of the beast race members said. Tisk, what's the matter? It's just a rumor. In fact, Jiang Luotian had always wanted to beat that person up, but she couldn't beat him, another person said. Anyway, it's not a big deal. The incident 2 days ago was too infuriating. This time, watch me. Xiong Kun said. He had a stocky build and a strong physique. Even though he was covered in bandages, he still looked mighty. He directly walked over. Some people wanted to dissuade him, but seeing that the others had already walked over, they also followed. Even Lu Qing, as a woman, wanted to join in the fun. Goddess Jiang, what a coincidence to meet you here. I have a deep impression of your scenes in the movie Demon Ox the Great Sage. It was simply too perfect. Xiong Kun directly praised her loudly after he came close. His tone was filled with flattery, which was very rare. However, not to mention the other beast race members, even he himself felt that something was amiss. Mentioning the demon Ox the Great Sage for no reason at all had infuriated him to death. Similarly, Jiang Luotian also didn't want to hear about the movie Demon Ox the Great Sage. She had acted passively, but in the end it had exploded in popularity and almost proved that she really had a relationship with Chu Feng. Who are you people? Muzhua was unhappy. These people had inexplicably come in and stole his limelight. I'm Xiong Kun. Do you have a problem with that? Xiong Kun said. His black hair was draped over his shoulders, and his body was bulky. He stood there like a black pagoda, looking down at Muzhua. So you're Xiong Kun, Muzhua said. He immediately knew who they were because their temperament was a bit strange. Now that his suspicions were confirmed, a smile appeared on his face. He wanted to greet them warmly. In the end, his words and his smile were misunderstood by Xiong Kun. He thought that this person was mocking him for kneeling 2 days ago and getting beaten up by his grandfather. Pa! Xiong Kun directly gave him a slap. It was too sudden, and Muzhua was sent flying. This was truly a bear's paw. Gigolo, what are you laughing at? Xiong Kun asked after slapping Muzhua. You! Muzhua was enraged. He was originally rushing towards Jiang Luotian, but in the end, he was slapped by someone. This made him feel extremely sullen, and he almost shouted out loud. What, you don't like it? Xiong Kun walked over and stepped on Muzhua's chest. He looked down at Muzhua and said, Gigolo, you still dare to laugh at me? Muzhua wanted to curse. If he could, he wanted to chop this black bear into pieces. It was truly an undeserved calamity. He was beaten for no reason at all. Bang bang bang, Xiong Kun was very straightforward. Without any hesitation, he kicked Muzhua out of the box without giving him a chance to say anything. Muzhua's mouth was full of blood. He was so angry that he was trembling. However, he was still no match for Xiong Kun. He was suppressed to the point where he couldn't even stand up. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. At this moment, everyone in the room was watching. Hu Xing stepped forward. He had a head of light golden hair. Although his eyes were not very big, he was quite handsome. He had already informed the people around him that he would step forward. After all, Xiong Kun was a bit rude. Hu Xing flicked his light golden hair and said with a smile, Miss Jiang, please don't take offense. This brother of mine is too straightforward, but he's actually a good person. Outside the box, Muzhua really wanted to say, good my ass. He's too vengeful. Because Xiong Kun was still kicking him, Hu Xing smiled elegantly and courteously invited them. He said, we all like Miss Jiang's movies very much. It's a coincidence that we ran into each other. I wonder who you're waiting for? If there's no one else, why don't we share our boxes and move to a bigger room? Chapter 146. Hu Xing revealed a bright smile. His teeth were as white as snow, and his long blonde hair shone brilliantly. He looked even more radiant than before. That would be great. Then he looked at the other people in the room. They were the ones who had come earlier. Just like Mujua, they believed that they had powerful backgrounds and stayed. You guys should leave as soon as possible. Don't bother Miss Jiang anymore, Hu Xing warned. His slender eyes were glowing with a divine light. What else could they say? They already knew that this was a different species. They couldn't afford to provoke him. Even the Mu family had been kicked out. Of course, they wouldn't dare to fight back. Outside the door, Mu Zhuo was kicked by Xiong Kuan. He was angry and in pain. His vision went black and he fainted. "Oh, Goddess Jiang, you are here." Just then, another person came over and greeted Jiang Luotian warmly, as if they were very familiar with each other. "Zhou Tian?" Jiang Luotian gritted her teeth and stared at the man in front of her. She hated him to death. He was the one who took all kinds of photos in Taihang Mountain. Zhou Tian acted as if he didn't hear the tremble in her voice. With an incomparably enthusiastic appearance, he said, "Goddess Jiang, your memory is really good. We've only met once, but I still have such a deep impression in your heart." "Honored my ass." Jiang Luotian wanted to curse and chop the man in front of her into pieces. It was this Zhou Tian who had spread all kinds of gossip in order to promote the demon ox, the great saint. Things like King Kong riding a pig, Jiang Luotian and Angel Ox talking for 2 or 3 days. He kept releasing all kinds of rumors, making Jiang Luotian the queen of the hot search list. It would have been fine if the news was positive, but it was all negative. The photos of her having dinner with Chu Feng and being captured by Chu Feng were all released by Zhou Tian. In the end, it led to all kinds of rumors, saying that she was having a miscarriage. How could Jiang Luotian not be excited after seeing the person in question? Her voice was trembling. She had the urge to kill someone. "Goddess Jiang, this is my business card." Zhou Tian handed it to her. Jiang Luotian's eyebrows were raised. She was hesitating whether or not she should pour the teapot on his head. Xia Qianyu was quite speechless as she watched from the side. This lousy director really didn't have any self-awareness. Instead of quickly disappearing, he was still an eyesore. In the end, she also got a business card. Zhou Tian turned his head and saw Hu Xing, Xiong Kuan, and the others. His eyes immediately lit up, and he respectfully said, "You all really have a great temperament. No matter how I look at you, you don't look like ordinary people." Xiong Kuan liked what he said and nodded at him. In the end, Zhou Tian handed out business cards one by one for each person. He introduced himself and said, "My name is Zhou Tian, and I am a director. I feel that all of you have an extraordinary bearing. Perhaps we will have the opportunity to cooperate in the future." Jiang Luotian was furious. The scene in front of her reminded her of Zhou Tian back in Taihang Mountains. He had also been like this, handing out business cards to everyone he met. "You're the one who bid for the demon bull sage?" Hu Xing suddenly asked, because he knew about the origin of this film and had seen Zhou Tian's photo. The others were all astonished, revealing expressions of interest. "Yes." Zhou Tian nodded, looked at Hu Xing and said, "Mister, I feel that you are very suitable to play the role of the fox spirit." After hearing this, Hu Xing's white face immediately darkened, and his smile froze. Then, Zhou Tian looked at Xiong Kuan and enthusiastically said, "Brother, you are very strong and mighty. I feel that your temperament is very suitable for the role of the black bear spirit in the new film I'm preparing to shoot." Xiong Kuan's face also darkened, and he stared at him with an unfriendly expression. "Brother, you are very suitable to play the role of a spirit that has just taken human form." Zhou Tian's mouth was endless, and he had offended another person. "Are you tired of living?" Someone started to make things difficult for him. Several people's faces sank as they stared at Zhou Tian. Hu Xing said in a gloomy tone, "I really hate your film and the people related to it." Xiong Kuan nodded. His body was very sturdy, and even with his whole body wrapped in bandages, he still gave off an oppressive feeling. He said, That lead actor is too loathsome, I hate him. Hu Xing signaled the other beast race members to take care of Zhou Etian. He brushed his light golden hair and smiled at Jiang Luoshan, saying, Miss Jiang, let's go. If that guest of yours comes, tell him to look for us later. He actually made you wait for so long. I really don't know what qualifications he has to put on such a smelly air. Suddenly, in a split second, he felt his hair stand on end. It was as if he was being stared at by some terrifying beast, and his whole body felt uncomfortable. This feeling was very familiar. Hu Xing looked outside the door from the corner of his eye, and the result was that his hair stood on end. He just happened to see Chu Feng smiling at him, revealing a mouthful of snow-white teeth. He was so scared that he almost screamed out loud. In that split second, Hu Xing understood everything. The person Jiang Luoshan was waiting for was Chu Feng. He was almost scared to death. Chu Feng's gaze fell on him, and he didn't look at anyone else. That was why he was so sensitive. The others didn't know, especially Xiong Kun. He used his finger that was thicker than a carrot to poke Zhou Etian's chest and said, Do you know how to choose actors? Did you choose the right person for the lead role of Demon Ox Great Sage? If it was me, I would be better than him. Do you understand? Your judgment of people is too poor. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. He had been forced to kneel by Chu Feng, and had even been beaten up by his grandfather, the Black Bear King. He had a belly full of anger. He rolled up his sleeves and wanted to teach Zhou Etian a lesson. He wanted to treat him like Chu Feng and give him a good beating. This was because whenever he looked at this director and thought of Chu Feng, he would get angry. He had a good impression of Zhou Etian before, but this stupid director shouldn't have reminded them of that person. At this time, Hu Xing was very quiet. He didn't say a word. Xiong Kun suspiciously looked at Hu Xing and said, Why aren't you saying anything? Why are you keeping your mouth shut? You're just like the last time, reminding me of some unpleasant memories. He naturally thought of the last time. Chu Feng had warned Hu Xing that if he dared to say one more word, he would be beheaded. In the end, Hu Xing held it in and didn't say a single word. At this time, Hu Xing's mouth was shut even tighter after hearing his words. I say, can you not be like this? I've been messed with by you. What kind of silent meditation is this? Xiong Kun glared. At this moment the others also felt something. Some of them quietly turned around and were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies. They almost shouted out loud. That fiend had come again, and he was right behind them. Xiong Kun glared at Hu Xing and said, Look at you. Aren't you going to be Demon King Chu soon? Wait until we brothers become kings, then we'll go and give him a good beating. At this moment, everyone was scared because they had all seen Chu Feng. He had already stepped into the private room. Only Xiong Kun was still unaware. After seeing Chu Feng, Zhou Etian's face almost blossomed into a smile. He rushed over in large strides. Back when he was filming Chu Feng at Taihang Mountains, he also didn't expect Demon Ox to be so explosive. Stop right there. Did I say you could leave? Xiong Kun glared at him. The others blinked their eyes furiously, hinting at him. Brother, I'm so happy to see you again. Zhou Etian ignored him and rushed over to hug Chu Feng passionately. He didn't regard himself as an outsider at all and acted as if he was very familiar with him. Demon King Chu. Xiong Kun finally discovered the person in question. He was so shocked that he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Moreover, he staggered backwards and squeezed his way to the door. Thump! He stepped on Muzhua's body and immediately, a blood-curdling screech rang out. Muzhua had woken up from the pain. What was going on? Muzhua's face was blank. He felt intense pain all over his body and then saw Chu Feng standing in the middle of the room. He also saw a group of beast race members lowering their heads in fear. This scene made him feel extremely humiliated. You guys are really something. You're talking about me behind my back and you still want to fight me? Chu Feng said. No, King Chu, please don't misunderstand. How would we dare? We're all acting as escorts to help you protect Miss Jiang, one of the beast race members said with an apologetic smile. Black Bear, your clothes are quite trendy. You look like you're wrapped in bandages. Chu Feng stared at Xiong Kuan. Xiong Kuan almost cursed out loud, but he didn't dare. He honestly explained, This is my grandfather's fault for speaking out of turn. I'm taking this opportunity to apologize to the bull demon. Of course, I'm also apologizing to King Chu. Xiong Kuan spoke against his conscience. He didn't dare to be forceful. Last time, he had suffered quite a bit. Now, he had to face Chu Feng with a smile. Alright, since we've met, you guys should also sit down. Let's eat together and get to know each other better, Chu Feng called out to everyone with a smile. Zhou Etienne was immediately overjoyed. If it weren't for Jiang Luoshan's murderous glare, he would have sat down next to her and Chu Feng. In the end, he ran over to the opposite side. The group of beast race members felt their scalps go numb. They felt extremely uncomfortable and regretted coming here. How could they have bumped into him again? One had to know that they had especially avoided the Clearsky Tower. They didn't want to go there for the rest of their lives. This was because they knew that Chu Feng had appeared there several times in the past. Who would have thought that even after coming here, they still wouldn't be able to avoid him? It was simply too much of a coincidence. Lu Qing, Hu Xing, Xiong Kuan, and the others all had fake smiles on their faces. Their expressions were even uglier than crying. They felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They really wanted to escape immediately. This place was too uncomfortable. At the same time, they looked at Jiang Luoshan with hidden bitterness. Was this the person you were waiting for? You even said that he was an unimportant guest. How could you cheat people like this? Come, introduce yourselves. Chu Feng opened his mouth, allowing these beast race members to introduce themselves and where their clans were located. Chu Feng was very interested in Xiong Kuan. He inquired about the situation in the western region in detail. This caused Xiong Kuan to feel extremely nervous and had goosebumps all over his body. Even the other beast race members were suspicious. Was Chu Feng going to pay the Black Bear a visit to settle the score? Chu Feng smiled and said, Relax, don't be nervous. As the saying goes, no discord, no concord. We're all old acquaintances. If you can put down your prejudices, we can still be friends in the future. Who knows, maybe one day I'll visit your clan as a guest. This made the group of beast race members unable to sit still. Their hair stood on end. Would Demon King Chu's visit be a good thing? Could it be that he was going to flatten the mountain and destroy the stronghold? This was too cruel. King Chu, there were some misunderstandings between us in the past, but there won't be any more in the future. I swear that I will never have any enmity towards you in this life. Hu Xing was the first to express his stance. Xiong Kuan, who was covered in bandages, stood up excitedly with tears in his eyes. That was because Chu Feng had asked him about the situation in the western region. If he really wanted to conquer a famed mountain, he would start with his clan. Brother Chu, God Chu, Grandpa Chu, everything in the past was a misunderstanding. We won't dare to speak ill of you behind your back anymore. Peace is the most important thing, please don't be angry. Xiong Kuan, who was as sturdy as an iron tower, was now scowling miserably as he tried his best to express his stance. He was afraid that Chu Feng would go and destroy the Black Bear lineage's lair. Xia Qianyu was dumbfounded. Just now, she had seen with her own eyes how arrogant these beast race members were. With a single slap, they sent the Mu family members flying without a care in the world. Now, after seeing Chu Feng, the Black Bear seemed to have turned into a kitten. His wildness had completely disappeared, and he was simply too afraid of Chu Feng. Jiang Luoshan also sighed lightly. Although she had long since known that Demon King Chu's deterrence towards the beast race was terrifying, she didn't expect it to be this excessive. Just by sitting together, he was able to make these domineering experts tremble with fear. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. She finally understood why Bodhi Biogenetics was willing to pay any price to rope in Chu Feng. This was a great killing machine. Demon King Chu's power was too terrifying. Alright, you guys can leave now. Looking at you guys like this, I don't even have the mood to eat anymore. Oh right, don't forget to take that person at the door with you, Chu Feng said. He still remembered Mu Zhuo. Although he didn't know his name, he had seen him standing together with Mu Tian at the banquet. He was from the Mu family. Okay. The group of people acted as if they had been granted amnesty. They ran away like a wisp of smoke, unwilling to stay for even a moment longer. Beauty Xia, we meet again. I think we're quite fated to meet, Chu Feng greeted Xia Qinyu. Xia Qinyu's face immediately turned red. This guy had mentioned her sore spot. Every time they met, it would be so embarrassing. This Demon King Chu actually had the nerve to mention it? This was especially true when she thought back to their first blind date. She originally thought that Chu Feng was full of nonsense, but in the end, it all turned out to be true. Some things really couldn't be blamed on him. In the end, although she had also become a minor celebrity, she had never thought that this dark horse would become a household name because of the demon ox great sage. Every time she thought about it, she would feel so embarrassed that she could die. As for Jiang Luoshan, she was also grinding her teeth when she thought about those old matters. She always felt that this Chu Feng was too hateful. He had purposely concealed his identity, causing her to make all kinds of wrong judgments. 1 kilogram of quasi-king level flesh for 50 kilograms of mutant soil. That's the price, I won't lower the price. Finally, they got down to business. Chu Feng was adamant that this was the price, and there was no room for compromise. Zhou Yitian didn't know what was good for him. Seeing their fierce competition, Jiang Luoshan's face was red to the ears. In the end, he snapped a photo of them together. Zhou Yitian, if you dare send me a photo again, I'll find someone to throw you into the sea to feed the mutated sharks. Zhou Yitian laughed dryly and hurriedly explained that this was only a photo to commemorate the occasion. He wouldn't send it again. If that's the case, then forget it. Here's a letter from my family's patriarch. Jiang Luoshan handed over a golden envelope to Chu Feng. She couldn't agree to Chu Feng's conditions. They were too harsh. Bodhi Biogenetics was a big corporation, but they couldn't provide so much mutant soil. Unless they could conquer a famed mountain, who would be willing to do so, they would even need to plant mutant trees. Chu Feng tore open the envelope and read it carefully. Soon, a strange expression appeared on his face. Your patriarch wishes for me to marry you. He raised both hands in approval. Jiang Luoshan's face turned red. She jumped up and said angrily, Impossible! Then, she turned around and left. This was too embarrassing. What was that old man thinking? He didn't even tell her, making her feel so embarrassed. One had to know that she had personally handed this letter to Chu Feng. Jiang Luoshan was about to go crazy when she saw the content. Hey, if you don't believe me, take a look for yourself. Chu Feng shouted from behind. He looked very enthusiastic and asked her to read it herself. Jiang Luoshan wished she could grow wings and disappear in the blink of an eye. Xia Qinyu glared at Chu Feng and quickly chased after her. Really? At this time, Zhou Yitian came over to take a look. I felt that the letter was hinting at me, so I summarized the hidden central meaning and told her, Chu Feng said. His face was not red, and his heart was not beating fast. You can do that? Zhou Yitian was dumbfounded. He was almost speechless. Goddess Jiang must be scared out of her wits. She must run back to her family in the middle of the night. Who cares? Let's drink. This time, we're in a rush. I don't have time to deal with them. Otherwise, I'd throw caution to the wind. Chu Feng said. Zhou Yitian's eyes suddenly turned green. Brother, why are you throwing caution to the wind? Eat your food. The next day, at the first glimmer of dawn, Chu Feng arrived at the airport on time. With the thunderous on his back and 2 swords in hand, he boarded a large passenger plane. After flying for almost 2 days, Chu Feng changed planes twice on the way. Only then did he arrive at the western region. Chapter 147. How did you get here so quickly? Yellow Cattle mumbled in a tender voice over the communicator. He was actually complaining that Chu Feng had arrived too early. Yellow Cattle, what do you mean by this? I'm not welcome here. Chu Feng expressed his dissatisfaction. The voice on the other end was somewhat noisy. It was as if a group of king-level entities had gathered together, accompanied by loud roars. An underground palace has opened up in Kunlun. Now, all the beast kings are watching and preparing to snatch it. I'm going to fight with Old Black. Time is too tight, you should come over yourself. Yellow Cattle hung up after finishing his sentence. He was in a hurry. Hey, Yellow Cattle, are you just going to leave me here? Chu Feng called out, but there was only a beeping sound coming from the communicator. He was speechless. What kind of world was this? The 2 oxen had pestered him to come over, but now that he had arrived, he was being left behind. The underground palace of Kunlun has appeared? This is a major event. Chu Feng felt vexed and could not calm down. He wanted nothing more than to kill his way over. The underground palace of Mount Pan had the imperial sword technique, but what would the world-famous Mount Kunlun have? His eyes were burning with passion. After a long while, Chu Feng finally contacted the 2 oxen and said, "Wait for me, I'll kill my way over immediately." "Don't bother, it's only one of the underground palaces," the black yak informed him. He also told him that he wouldn't make it in time. By the time he arrived, it would be too late because the 2 places were 8,000 kilometers apart. What? 8,000 kilometers? You 2 are cheating me. Why didn't you say so earlier? Chu Feng was dumbfounded. The 2 oxen had never told him that he needed to travel 8,000 kilometers. He silently asked the heavens, feeling that he had been cheated. Could it be that he would have to walk all the way there? Chu Feng looked down at the map in his hand and felt that it was useless. After the appearance of the folded space, many roads were blocked and had completely lost their value as a reference. On Mount Kunlun, the 2 oxen were not the least bit worried about Chu Feng's safety. He had already severed 1 shackle, so he should be able to protect himself after becoming a king-level entity. Moreover, he had killed a powerful beast king before. Chu Feng walked out of the airport and walked to the wilderness. Looking at the desolate Gobi Desert, he was speechless. What was going on? When would they reach the end of such a spacious land? He took out his communicator and scrolled through his contact list. Finally, his eyes lit up as he stared at one person. Shuntian, in the presidential suite on the top floor of the Luofu Hotel. Xiong Kuan's snores shook the heavens as he slept soundly. The room could be considered luxurious. Ever since he entered human society and experienced the initial dazzle, he began to understand how to enjoy life. Who is it? It's so early in the morning, which king is it? Xiong Kuan was still drowsy. But when he saw that the caller ID was the one that he had specially marked with the words Demon King Chu, he immediately came to his senses and swallowed the words bastard that were at the tip of his tongue. Xiong Kuan shuddered, and all his sleepiness disappeared. King Chu, why are you looking for me so early in the morning? Xiong Kuan's face was full of smiles. Even though the other party could not see him and could only hear his voice, he still felt a bit guilty. Where is your home in the West? Chu Feng asked. What? Xiong Kuan's hair stood on end. He cautiously asked, Immortal Chu, where are you? I'm in the West, Chu Feng replied truthfully. Clang! Xiong Kuan fell off the bed and sat on the floor with a pale face. He felt that something big was about to happen. This demon King Chu was too ruthless. It had only been 2 days, And he was really going to destroy the Black Bear clan's lair? Xiong Kun was scared out of his wits. Immortal Chu, let's talk this out. Even if we were in the wrong, you should at least give us a chance to correct our mistakes. Peace is the most important thing in all matters. Please don't be impulsive. Xiong Kun said with a sobbing tone. He really wanted to slap himself. Why did he curse Demon King Chu behind his back for no reason? In the end, he was caught red-handed that night. But this Chu Feng was too vengeful. He wanted to flatten a mountain and destroy a stronghold? What nonsense are you talking about? I just want to go to your house and sit for a while. There's nothing else, Chu Feng said impatiently. Damn your grandpa. There's nothing else? Xiong Kun was filled with grief and indignation. He was about to fight his way to the Chu family's door, and yet he was still speaking in such a poetic manner. This was too unkind. As expected of the ferocious demon King Chu. Immortal Chu, can we have a chat? Calm down first. Give me some time to explain everything to you. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Xiong Kun said in a low voice. This black bear had completely misunderstood. His face was pale as he apologized to Chu Feng. He almost swore that he would do anything for him. Chu Feng threatened, if you speak any more nonsense, I'll really go and stew 2 bear paws to nourish my body. Hurry up and tell me your grandfather's contact information. You'd better shut your mouth right now and not say anything useless. Xiong Kun immediately contacted his grandfather. He was on the verge of tears as he shouted, Grandpa, something big has happened. Demon King Chu wants to kill you. Run away quickly. This time, your grandson is in the wrong. I've brought you a disaster. Run away quickly. The black bear was dumbfounded. What was going on? Didn't he just apologize to those 2 oxen and let the matter pass? How did he get into trouble again? Bear cub, are you trying to anger me to death? You've brought me another disaster? King want to beat you to death. You'll be in trouble as soon as I let you out. Just you wait. The black bear was furious. Soon after, he received a call from an unknown number. He didn't even need to think to know that it was Demon King Chu. Chu Feng, what did you say? You want to come to my house? Don't come, it's a remote and desolate place with nothing. I'll pay you a visit at the flourishing Shuntian city some other day. Brother Chu, I was in the wrong last time. This old bear apologizes to you. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and pick me up. I'm only passing by and need a guide to Mount Kunlun. If you continue to dawdle, I'll really kill my way to your doorstep. The outside world was no longer peaceful. Xiong Kun was frightened out of his wits. He begged and begged everywhere in search of reinforcements. He tried to contact the beast kings from all over the world to rescue his grandfather. This was like a heavy bomb that exploded with a loud boom. Many people were astonished and sighed inwardly at Demon King Chu's ruthlessness. Did he really kill his way to his grandfather's doorstep? This news spread rapidly and shook all the races in the blink of an eye. Hu Xing, Lu Qing, and the others received Xiong Kun's distress message. He forced them to contact their clans and ask for help from their beast kings. These young beast race members were trembling with fear. They were worried that Chu Feng would remember them. Even some of the beast kings were speechless. They sighed inwardly. This Chu Feng was too vengeful. Didn't the black bear lower his head and admit defeat? Why did he still want to kill his way to our doorstep? This caused a huge uproar as all the major powers learned of it. From the beast race royalty to the human corporations, all of them received the news immediately. They were all shaken to the core. A young human king was going to start a massacre? The 4 directions were shaken. Chu Feng's simple visit had caused such a huge commotion. Even he himself didn't know that the outside world was about to be turned upside down. As expected of Demon King Chu. He's too ferocious, wanting to exterminate an entire race just because of a single word of disagreement. Who would dare provoke him in the future? Hu Xing's old ancestor sighed. He felt a chill run down his spine as he sternly reprimanded Hu Xing, telling him to be more well-behaved in human society and not to cheat his ancestor. He must seek revenge for the smallest grievance. We can't afford to provoke him. This demon king is too ferocious and won't have a good end in the future. Some beast kings were cursing. As for human society, it was a different scene. Immortal Chu is too valiant. He's going to defy the heavens and conquer yet another famed mountain. Who can contend with his divine might? Godly, this is the demeanor of a hegemon. He'll sweep through all four directions and wipe out anyone who dares challenge him. Many people were in heated discussion. They were incomparably excited. The internet had exploded. The beast race had risen too quickly during this period of time. They had banded together in an overbearing manner, and the human race had always been on the defensive. Now that Chu Feng had appeared, he was like a fresh mudslide. He had swept away the previous dejected state of the human race. He would exterminate an entire race just because of a single word of disagreement. It was simply too unconventional. It was impossible not to be excited. Many people felt that there would no longer be a deranged beast king like the Ash Wolf who dared to act so arrogantly. Otherwise, they would immediately send Demon King Chu to exterminate their entire race. Boss, are you really in the western region? Are you going to the Black Bear race? The clairaudient Ouyang Qing immediately contacted Chu Feng. Yes, I'm on my way, Chu Feng replied. Boss, you're a war god of a generation. You're too heaven-defying. We'll hold a welcoming banquet for you when you return. Ouyang Qing quickly hung up after saying this. Hey, what nonsense are you spouting? Chu Feng was baffled. He had vaguely guessed what was going on, but he didn't pay attention to it because it didn't matter. Very soon, Ouyang Qing announced on his social media platform that he had received confirmation that Chu Feng was on his way to the Black Bear race. The outside world was shaken once again. That was because many people knew of his relationship with Chu Feng. Hearing such words from his mouth, all the rumors from before had been completely confirmed. Everyone was gasping in admiration. Demon King Chu was walking the path of a hegemon and was going to flatten all four directions. He's going to kill a beast king just because of a single word of disagreement. He's truly a role model for our generation. Even the corporate powers were sighing in admiration. Not to mention within the country, even the Western world was alarmed. Countless people were in heated discussion after hearing this news. This Demon King Chu has quite the character. Oh God, I pray that he'll come to the West and cause havoc. He'll help us suppress some beast kings. We really need this kind of ferocious Demon King. That makes sense. Demon King Chu, we're inviting you. Please come to the West. There's the Black Dragon, the fallen Dark Beast, and the Undead Phoenix waiting for you to kill them. There was a huge commotion all over Europe. Many people were discussing this matter, and some were even discussing whether they should invite Chu Feng to the West. This was enough to prove that the matter had become too big. Of course, there were also different voices. For instance, some of the beast kings in the West were very arrogant and conceited. Some of the beast kings wore arrogant expressions as they transmitted their voices to the human world. Demon King Chu? I've never heard of him. If he dares to come, we'll teach him how to behave. This caused a huge wave. Many people in the East were denouncing Chu Feng on the internet. Are you trying to provoke him? Be careful, Demon King Chu will come to Europe in the next moment and teach you how to behave. You'll cry later. I firmly believe that Immortal Chu will set foot in Western Europe one day. At that time, I hope you'll still dare to clamor. This matter actually caused a commotion. Many people ridiculed the Beast King. What's there to be afraid of? Just wait for him to come. I'm the Chilan King, and I live under Mount Olympus. Currently, I'm fighting at the Vatican. Anyone who's not satisfied can come. The Beast King was enraged. Many people in the West drew in a breath of cold air. The Qilin king was a terrifying beast king. He was extremely powerful and was known as the fire god. That's just empty talk. Does that Chu Feng really dare to come to the west? I don't think so. The beast kings of the east aren't that strong. That's why he dares to be so arrogant. If he really comes to Europe, he'll fall very quickly. There were also human experts from the Western world who didn't believe Chu Feng would really dare to go over. Many people in the East were immediately dissatisfied with him. Those who understood Western language began to criticize him. My name is Augustus, and I'm currently at the Vatican. If that Chu Feng dares to come, he can come and find me. Augustus replied coldly and arrogantly. Many people were moved because this person was extremely famous in the West. He was an extremely powerful king-level expert. Moreover, his name was the same as the first monarch of the ancient Roman Empire. The original meaning of his name was divine and grand. Just wait. Demon King Chu will definitely go to the Western world and meet up with you. He'll teach you how to behave like a beast. Someone shouted. However, there were also some people who felt guilty. After all, the distance between the East and the West was too great after the upheavals. Who knew when Chu Feng would go? Perhaps he would never set foot there in his lifetime. Only the old man Lu Tong revealed an odd expression. He knew that Chu Feng was about to go. What kind of expression would the Qilin king and Augustus have when they saw him? Chapter 148. All of this was caused by Chu Feng's visit to the Black Bear tribe. It caused a perilous situation. However, the main character was acting as if nothing had happened. Accompanied by the Black Bear, they were ascending the Herb King Mountain. This mountain was very famous in Tibet because it was adjacent to the Patala Palace. But now it had changed greatly. The mountain had grown a lot taller and the scenery was magnificent. The mountains of Tibet were majestic and majestic. Now, the Herb King Mountain was covered in rosy clouds like a fairyland. Walking along the small path, the green pines and cypresses were sparkling like agate. They were full of vitality and white mist filled the air. At the same time, the mountain was flowing with a divine golden glow. The Black Bear looked to be in his 40s or 50s in human form. He had a stocky build and was even sturdier than Xiong Kuan. But now, he was constantly wiping away cold sweat. Only now did he feel the pressure in front of this demon king. Before, when he didn't understand the situation, he was ready to fight with his life on the line against Chu Feng. He really thought that Chu Feng had come to flatten the mountain and destroy his tribe. In the end, he had just revealed a wisp of hostility when a scarlet flying knife flew across the sky and almost landed on his neck. At that moment, the Black Bear understood that he was not this demon king's match. If they were to fight, he would definitely die here. That was because that terrifying spiritual energy was too astonishing. It was even more powerful than a beast king with 2 severed shackles. Chu Feng's imperial sword technique was unfathomable to him. Fortunately, Chu Feng didn't fight him after he lowered his stance. He only wanted him to act as a guide to Mount Kunlun. The Black Bear had the urge to curse out loud. Wasn't it just a guide? In the end, he caused such a commotion. Now, the whole world knew that Chu Feng was coming to destroy him. This made him rather speechless. At the same time, the Black Bear swore that he would give that bear cub, Xiong Kuan, a good beating. What kind of shitty information had he passed on to cause such a big misunderstanding? If he had believed Chu Feng's words, he would have long since been annihilated by Chu Feng. This bear cub, I'll deal with you when we get back. The Black Bear was furious. He guessed that the news must have spread like wildfire outside about Chu Feng wanting to kill him. At the very least, he had to smooth things over. He couldn't ruin Chu Feng's reputation, and he couldn't embarrass himself too much. It was really troublesome and a headache. On the same day, the Black Bear King announced to the public that he had obtained Chu Feng's forgiveness and that a new chapter had been opened. He also said that immortal King Chu had let bygones be bygones, and that the two of them had called each other brothers and were as close as a family from now on. Of course, he couldn't call Chu Feng the Great Demon King. Instead, he called him Immortal King Chu. After the news spread, there was an uproar everywhere. Black Bear is too cowardly. He's been subdued by that young human king. This was the reaction of the beast race. They were extremely disappointed in him. The human world was also discussing this matter, becoming even more restless. Immortal Chu is too valiant. Subduing the enemy without a fight is already the way of the king. Immortal Chu's move is impressive. He killed a beast king and subdued another one. This is even more intimidating. The combination of tyranny and kingship is the best strategy. The impact of this matter was great and everyone was discussing it. For a while, it was difficult to calm down. Many people were discussing this matter and it became the focal point of the discussion. All the major corporations began to re-evaluate Chu Feng's strength. In truth, Chu Feng didn't pay much attention to these matters. His mind wasn't on this matter at all. He only wanted to get to Mount Kunlun as soon as possible and keep thinking about that underground palace. King Chu, please. Finally, after eating and drinking well on the Medicine King Mountain, Chu Feng, accompanied by the Black Bear King, jumped onto the back of a silver raptor. It was dozens of meters long. Its feathers were as bright as snow and seemed to be cast from metal. Clanging sounds rang out as they collided with each other. There was a pavilion on its back. It wasn't very big, but it was very exquisite. It was big enough for a few people to rest inside. It was like a palace in the sky. The interior decorations were exquisite and very comfortable. The silver raptor spread its wings and carried Chu Feng and the Black Bear King towards Mount Kunlun. This was much faster than Chu Feng's walking speed. After all, there were mountains on the ground. Even if he could run at an astonishing speed, he couldn't advance in a straight line. He had to cross over mountains and ridges with all kinds of obstacles. This problem wasn't a problem in the air. Late at night, they arrived at Mount Kunlun. The majestic mountain range in front was intertwined with one another. It was like a barbaric dragon that had been hibernating on the ground since ancient times. A desolate and vigorous aura covered the sky and covered the earth. That was the majestic Mount Kunlun. King Chu, this is the territory of Mount Kunlun. There's a whole new world inside. Ordinary people aren't qualified to enter. I can only escort you here. The Black Bear King laughed dryly. He didn't dare to force his way in. Chu Feng nodded and jumped down from the back of the silver raptor. After flying for such a long time, the vicious bird was exhausted. It landed on the ground and panted heavily. It was extremely sick. It had flown for 8,000 kilometers. Any other bird would have died of exhaustion long ago. The Black Bear King frowned. He definitely couldn't continue on his journey now. He needed to rest here for the night. Chu Feng also didn't want to enter the mountains at night. In the end, he returned to the hall on the bird's back with the Black Bear King to recuperate and rest. Early in the morning, the first ray of sunlight shone from the east. The whole of Mount Kunlun was enveloped in a hazy golden radiance. It was extremely gorgeous and incomparably divine. Moreover, a large expanse of purple gas flew over from the sun and landed on Mount Kunlun. This made this land even more mysterious and filled with an unimaginable spirituality. All the mountains were sparkling and translucent as they absorbed strands of purple gas. This place was like the homeland of the gods. The Black Bear King was so envious that he almost died. He stood outside Mount Kunlun and drooled, but he didn't dare to approach. He was afraid of angering those ruthless fellows in the mountains. Chu Feng glanced at him and said, "What's the use of being envious? Just charge in and occupy a mountain. With your strength, you can totally give it a try." The Black Bear King shook his head vigorously and said, "No, I'll die if I fail. I'd better stay safe." King Chu, you have to be careful when you go in. Even if there are acquaintances inside, you have to pay more attention. Mount Kunlun is very complicated. After the Black Bear King finished speaking, he stepped onto the back of the giant silver bird and bid farewell to Chu Feng with cupped fists. He directly went far away amidst the violent winds and flying sand and rock. Chu Feng took a step forward and stepped into Mount Kunlun. As soon as he entered this mountainous region, he felt an extraordinary vitality. Even the rocks and cliffs were suffused with a brilliant luster in the morning glow. This was completely different from the Mount Kunlun of the past. There's so much purple gas flying over from the sun. It's auspicious and noble. What level of energy is this? Is this the so-called purple chi from the east? Purple chi from the east was a little particular. Chu Feng took a deep breath and felt very comfortable. A wisp of dense purple essence chi entered his body. It was very thin, but it was very shocking. An extremely small amount of purple gas spread out and instantly increased the activity of his body. It was very terrifying and filled him with energy. Chu Feng was astonished. He thought of many things. Without delay, he stood in the middle of Mount Kunlun and circulated his special breathing technique. Wisps of purple gas were attracted and entered his body. Very soon, he felt saturated. The amount of purple gas added together wasn't actually much. It was just a wisp, but it was enough for this time's needs. This morning, Chu Feng bathed in the morning glow. His whole body was shrouded in golden flames, accompanied by a wisp of purple gas that finally returned to his flesh. After a long time, he let out a long sigh. He felt very comfortable. Mount Kunlun is really a good place. Chu Feng sighed. He discovered that the so-called purple chi from the east was only at the beginning. As the red sun climbed higher, the dense purple gas no longer flew over and the morning glow became normal. Mount Kunlun was known as the #1 divine mountain in ancient China. There was indeed a reason for this. There were legends of the Queen Mother of West, legends of various sacred beasts, and even more myths and legends. From the records of the Grand Historian to the Classic of Mountains and Seas, and then to the Huainanzi and the commentary on the Classic of Water, there were too many historical records and documents regarding Mount Kunlun. Evolution: everything is caused by the super-evolution of various species. Chu Feng reminded himself not to be influenced by the myths and legends. Who's there? As he went deeper into Mount Kunlun's territory, a beast race expert appeared. He stood on a tall mountain and looked down at this place. This area was one of the entrances to Mount Kunlun and was normally guarded by beast race experts. That was a green wolf standing upright. It had yet to transform and was not a beast king, but it could speak. It should have eaten some strange fruit. Chu Feng, I've come to Mount Kunlun to visit a friend, Chu Feng said. You're that demon King Chu? The green wolf cried out in surprise. He had heard of Chu Feng's great name even in the distant Mount Kunlun. He glanced at Chu Feng with green light flowing in his eyes and said, Keep going forward and you'll reach the Myriad Deity Palace. There will be someone there to guide you. Chu Feng nodded at him and continued forward. He was astonished because he had heard of the Myriad Deity Palace. It was recorded in the history book. In ancient times, Gansu's enlightened master, Hu and Taoist Zhang Liqing, had once searched the Kunlun Mountains for the legendary home of myriad deities. In the end, they built a Taoist temple. Later on, that temple was named the Myriad Deity Palace. As the years passed, that Taoist temple was destroyed, but later generations found its ruins. Who would have thought that it would be rebuilt again? Chu Feng continued forward and finally saw a vast Taoist temple. It was simple and unadorned, but there was a sense of majesty within it. There were some creatures within the temple that were unique to the western region. For example, the Tibetan antelope, the snow leopard, and the Tibetan mastiff. Each and every one of them was mystical and powerful. Their fur was like satin, glistening and full of spirituality. Chu Feng felt that it was very strange that a Taoist temple would be filled with such beasts. What made him shiver was that there were two king-level entities guarding the depths of the Taoist temple. He could already feel their terrifying auras from far away. Soon, he saw a human who had long since taken human form and greeted him with a warm smile. The other king-level entity was a strange bird. Its body was 5 to 6 feet long, and its entire body was shrouded in a purple mist. It looked as if it had been cast from purple gold. Even its beak had a metallic luster to it. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like a woodpecker, but it was emitting the aura of a king-level entity. It was extremely dangerous. These two king-level entities didn't go to the newly discovered underground palace because they felt that it was too dangerous. So you are Chu Feng. King-level entities need to follow certain rules when entering the Kunlun Mountains. You just need to follow the path in front of the Myriad Deity Palace. Someone will lead you to the Bull Demon, the purple woodpecker said calmly. Chu Feng nodded and followed the path. That's not good, is it? The humanoid said in a low voice. The Bull Demon has already told him that if he comes, he will be sent directly to the Ox King Palace. Don't worry, I know what to do. No matter what, we must follow the rules, the purple woodpecker said calmly. Not long after, the humanoid king-level entity left to cultivate. The purple woodpecker flapped its wings and flew into the depths of the mountain range. It landed on a mountain peak and stared coldly at Chu Feng's disappearing silhouette. At the same time, two strange birds appeared on the mountain peak. One was a peacock, and the other was a golden falcon. They both bowed to the purple woodpecker and said, "We pay our respects to the bird king." "All right, since the peacock tribe and falcon tribe are requesting help, I will naturally help. After all, we are all birds. But don't lie to me, does he really have the imperial sword technique?" The purple woodpecker's eyes shone with a strong desire. "Yes, the Mount Pan lineage has a close relationship with our peacock tribe. We know everything about him." The peacock replied confidently. The golden eagle, on the other hand, was full of flattery. "Our ancestor, the Eagle King, was killed by a single slash from the white crane of the Mount Shu Sword Palace. I saw that battle from afar and felt its sharpness. I believe that if you can obtain the imperial sword technique, you will be unparalleled in Mount Kunlun." It was actually the descendant of the deceased Falcon King. The Falcon King and the Ash Wolf King had always been on good terms with the Peacock tribe. Back then, both the Falcon King and the Ash Wolf King had listened to the Peacock King's orders. "Very good, it is worth the risk." The purple woodpecker nodded. "Bird King, you must be careful. Once he masters the imperial sword technique, his strength will explode and he will be very difficult to deal with." The purple woodpecker sneered. "Don't worry, I have my plans. This is Kunlun Mountain, and there is a place that can restrain the imperial sword technique. As long as he enters, he will die without a doubt." It was at this time that a mutant bird flew over and transmitted its voice, reporting to the Bird King that human has entered the danger zone. The purple woodpecker revealed a joyful expression and said, "Very good, he is dead for sure. Let's go and take a look. After obtaining the imperial sword technique, I will seek refuge with the Peacock King and help him seize the pilgrimage grounds. I won't be staying in Kunlun anymore." "Haha, good, he is finally going to be beheaded. This should be enough to warn those who are getting restless." The peacock laughed loudly, feeling incomparably carefree. He immediately contacted the outside world and informed his tribesmen that Chu Feng was about to fall and that they were going to take his head immediately. Not long after, an explosive piece of news spread among the beast race. Demon King Chu might be dead, and he would be beheaded within a quarter of an hour at the latest. They could wait to see the live broadcast of his head. This news caused a huge uproar. It was said that he was trapped in the depths of Kunlun and was about to be beheaded. "Haha, that demon is finally going to die. I knew he wouldn't live long because he was too tyrannical. Did he really think he was invincible?" Someone is going to take care of him. Heh heh, I had long since guessed that he wouldn't have a good ending. Sooner or later, a peerless king-level expert would come to kill him. Indeed, the prophecy has come true. Among the beast race, many people were discussing and laughing incessantly. This news similarly caused an earthquake among the human race. Although they didn't know whether it was true or not, it was impossible for news related to Chu Feng to not attract attention even if they didn't want to. Oh no, could it be that Chu Feng has really been schemed against? The situation isn't looking good. The beast race is so certain that immortal Chu is most likely in danger. Many people were worried and felt that the situation wasn't right. What's there to be afraid of? Chu Feng has experienced so many fierce battles, and every time, he would rise again and defeat his opponents. I think this time, he will most likely cause a huge commotion. It's very likely that he will make a name for himself in one battle at Kunlun. Yes, I also have a premonition that Immortal Chu is most likely going to cause a huge commotion. Just wait and see, those beast race members will be dumbstruck once again. On the human side, some people held Chu Feng in high esteem. They simply didn't believe that he would meet with any danger. Some people were relatively optimistic and were waiting to see the explosive news. Haha, I'm really looking forward to it. When Immortal Chu goes on a killing spree and bathes in king-level blood, the scene will be incomparably shocking. Some people became even more optimistic. Many of the beast race members were speechless. What kind of situation was this? Was Chu Feng really that godly? Even they were almost shaken. However, some beast race members were very calm. I think Chu Feng should be dead by now. There was a time lag when the news came. That king-level expert had already calculated the timing. How could he leak the news in advance? Oh, humans can collect Chu Feng's corpse now. That's right, Chu Feng is dead, haha. Some beast race members couldn't stop laughing. Chapter 149. The majestic Mount Kunlun was surrounded by a silver waterfall. The mountains were majestic, like ancient dragons in hibernation and deep slumber. However, there were also many beautiful sceneries within the mountains. As Chu Feng walked along the mountain path, his breath was filled with a sweet fragrance. It was the scent of all sorts of unknown plants and flowers mixed together. His steps were light, and he was filled with anticipation as he was about to meet the two oxen. The path got further and further until it led to a huge valley. From afar, the scenery was not bad. The grass and leaves were like jade carvings, translucent and exuding essence energy. This place was very quiet, as if it was isolated from the rest of the world. Chu Feng walked into the valley and saw the beautiful scenery. The purple gold woodpecker appeared outside the valley and watched Chu Feng's disappearing silhouette with a cold smile. It was as if he was looking at a dead man. Master Bird King, he is a king-level entity. His divine instincts should be very sharp. Will he be able to detect us? The peacock asked in a low voice. It was precisely because of his exceptional divine instincts and overconfidence that he died such a miserable death. The purple gold woodpecker replied coldly, the Mount Kunlun was known as the home of myriad gods in ancient times. Divine instincts are useless here. The scenery within the valley was truly beautiful. There were many ancient trees with glowing leaves. The trees were filled with sparkling and translucent flowers of all kinds. When the gentle breeze brushed past, the petals would fall in profusion, creating a beautiful rain of petals. Standing here, Chu Feng felt that it was a kind of enjoyment. The fragrance refreshed his mind and made him feel spirited. However, this place was too quiet. There were only plants and no beasts cultivating here. How could such an otherworldly paradise not be occupied? Chu Feng walked forward and revealed a shocked expression. He saw a few corpses in this mountainous region. All of them had died in miserable states, and many of them had been dismembered. How could there be corpses in such a tranquil paradise? It would destroy one's mood. He became vigilant, but after spreading out his divine instincts, he did not sense any danger. This caused him to be somewhat astonished. As he walked forward, he saw more and more corpses. There were wolves' fur, bears' skeletons, hunting rifles, and many human skeletons. There were tombs in front of him, one after another. Some of the tombs were cracked open, and buried within them were black foxes, Tibetan mastiffs, and other beasts. Chu Feng became alert. What kind of place had he arrived at? How could there be so many corpses and burial mounds of mutants in this valley that looked like an immortal mansion? He walked forward. The green grass was like a cushion, the flowers sparkling and translucent, becoming more and more gorgeous and gentle. However, the number of corpses also increased. Some of them had existed for an extremely long time, already covered by flowers and plants. Chu Feng even saw the remains of a group of soldiers. They must have been dead for a long time, and there were all kinds of rusty guns and cannons beside them. They did not look like people from the post-civilization era. That's strange. Chu Feng was puzzled. Some of the corpses here had died a long time ago and seemed to have been eroded by the wind. They had existed for at least hundreds or thousands of years, while others had died recently. Is this Kunlun Mountain's test for outsiders? Chu Feng walked in and realized that there were fewer flowers and trees. Soon, he couldn't see any trees, only grass. In the end, even the grass had become sparse, revealing the scarlet mountainous terrain. Ah, this so-called demon King Chu is just a joke. Killing him is too easy. Outside the valley, the purple-gold woodpecker sneered with a disdainful expression. The golden eagle said respectfully, "The bird king's methods are exceedingly powerful. It's only natural for him to deal with this person. However, to us, he is indeed a terrifying demon." With a swoosh, the purple-gold woodpecker flew to the foot of a mountain, right beside the valley where Chu Feng was. The mountain was majestic, but it lacked vegetation and was mainly made up of rock. There were a few beast race guards at the foot of the mountain. "We pay our respects to the king." Yaks, snow leopards, and more than 10 other beasts bowed in unison. All of them could speak the human language. "That's enough, you can all withdraw," the purple-gold woodpecker said with a cold expression. Yes. These beasts retreated. At the foot of the mountain, there was a bronze pillar with a diameter of 2 feet. It was suspended by a thick iron chain in the middle of a dark, dried-up well. The purple-gold woodpecker approached and loosened the chains, causing the bronze pillar to fall into the bottomless well with a loud boom. The chains clanked as they followed suit. In just a split second, the nearby valley became completely different. A terrifying aura was emitted from it. Chu Feng's hair stood on end. He leapt up and leapt tens of meters away from where he was just standing. In the end, a blazing beam of light appeared behind him and exploded with a boom. As soon as he landed on the ground, the electric arcs swam, crackling and crackling. Strings of sparks appeared in the air, like a silver snake coiling around. He hurriedly rushed out as the area behind him exploded once again. Crack! Following which, a bolt of lightning streaked across the sky and struck in front of him. If he had been a step slower, he would have been struck. This was the might of the heavens, and it was difficult to defend against it. Behind him, the earth and rocks collapsed and the bones that had been lying on the ground for tens of years were smashed into smithereens. Chu Feng moved with extreme speed. His heart was filled with shock. What was going on? Why did lightning suddenly descend and explode here? It was too sudden. He raised his head and looked at the sky. The originally thin clouds had now become denser as lightning struck down into the valley. Chu Feng immediately threw away the black dagger, the thunderous bow, and the iron arrows. He then moved quickly and rushed towards a low-lying area. He finally understood why there were so many corpses in the valley. There were even soldiers' corpses. They had all been struck to death by lightning. This was originally a holy land like a paradise. How did it suddenly change and become a minefield? Chu Feng quickly pondered. Suddenly, he thought of something and was immediately horrified. He knew what this place was. The gate of hell. He felt his blood run cold as he understood the hidden reason. This was not a myth or a legend. In reality, there was such a place in Kunlun called the Gate of Hell. It had existed long before the Great Upheaval and was recorded in all kinds of literature. It was very famous in the area. The grass in this valley was lush, but the herdsmen never dared to set foot here. They would rather let their animals starve than come in to graze. That was because this place was extremely dangerous. A single mistake could result in death by lightning. In the early days, the geological surveyors didn't believe it. In the end, many people were killed by lightning. Any animal that came in would easily be struck by lightning, and very few would survive. Later on, some researchers came here to investigate and finally found out the truth. This underground area was extremely strange. The abnormal magnetic field value was ridiculously high. Under the effects of the electromagnetic field, the magnetic field would interact with the electric charges in the clouds, resulting in the discharge of electricity. This turned this place into a lightning zone, and running creatures could easily become target. Although he had found out the truth, Chu Feng couldn't do anything about it. This place had existed before the upheaval and was called the Gate of Hell by the locals. Only the ghost knew what kind of changes had taken place now. Chu Feng hid in the lowest area and circulated his special breathing technique to resist the lightning. Boom! Bolt after bolt of lightning struck the valley. The scene was extremely terrifying. Chu Feng didn't dare to run. That would make him even more vulnerable to lightning strike. He was lying dormant because this wasn't a fairy tale. It was a terrifying natural disaster. The natural world's lightning could easily reach hundreds of millions of volts. How could a normal body of flesh and blood withstand it? Outside the valley, the golden hawk and the peacock felt their hair stand on end. This kind of heavenly might terrified them. How did lightning fall from the 9 heavens come into being? No matter how they looked at it, this was a fatal situation. They believed that flesh and blood would not be able to withstand it. Even a king-level entity wouldn't be able to last long after being submerged in lightning. They would die without a doubt. My lord, what's going on? This is even more terrifying than the legends. How did you summon lightning? The golden hawk asked in a trembling voice. This is the power of a formation. It's hard to explain, but perhaps it really does exist, the purple woodpecker said indifferently. Back in the day, the kings of Kunlun were all shocked when they discovered this place. One of them had even died inside. His body was charred black and his body was torn to pieces. They had studied this place in detail and even invited some human scholars to investigate. In the end, they found out that this was caused by the abnormal magnetic field. This valley could be explained using human science, but when they excavated the place, they found traces of ancient people altering the valley. The beast kings were shocked. The ancients had altered the terrain and made use of it to magnify the abnormal magnetic field. According to their common conjecture, this was a formation. This kind of illusory thing could be explained using human culture. Using the magnetic field and the clouds to discharge electricity, it became a lightning zone. The purple woodpecker only said a few words, but the peacock and the golden hawk were dumbstruck. It was as if they had seen a ghost. A special terrain could be altered to attract lightning? Especially the well we found. By raising and lowering the bronze pillar, we can activate the magnetic field here and activate the lightning zone. The purple woodpecker revealed a faint smile. At this time, a few beast kings came forward with nervous expressions. My lord, this isn't a good idea. I'm afraid the other beast kings will have some objections. Unless they were punishing some of the most heinous of beasts, they would never lower the bronze pillar and enter the depths of the earth to activate the lightning zone. This was the consensus of the beast kings. I know what I'm doing. You guys don't need to say anything. Step aside, the purple woodpecker said indifferently. Within the valley, Chu Feng was in great danger. He had never thought that he would encounter such danger after coming to Mount Kunlun to look for the black yak. Wasn't this the territory of the two oxen? Someone was actually trying to harm him. Furthermore, he had never felt the slightest hint of danger before. His divine instincts were ineffective in Mount Kunlun. Damn it! At this time, he was in a sorry state. His clothes had been torn to shreds and his body was charred black. That lightning was enough to pierce through an ordinary person, yet he had suffered several of them. Ordinary people have a chance of surviving after being struck by lightning. My body has evolved to this level, so I should be able to hold on for a while. However, I will die without a doubt. There were traces of blood at the corner of Chu Feng's mouth. He had been gravely injured. That kind of lightning was extremely hot and would immediately roast an ordinary person, leaving only bones behind. He didn't dare to run. That would be akin to courting death. The lightning would strike his body intensely. It was better to lie down on the ground and not move. Chu Feng was resisting the lightning head-on. As time went on, the king-level experts of Mount Kunlun would definitely be alerted. At that time, the yellow cattle and the black yak would definitely rush over. At that time, he would be able to escape. The premise was that he could hold on until then. Boom! Yet another bolt of lightning descended. This time, the lightning was azure in color. It struck Chu Feng's body and sent him flying. His body trembled as he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. If it wasn't for the layer of mysterious energy protecting his body, he would definitely have been pierced through. With a thump, Chu Feng fell to the ground. His entire body was in excruciating pain. This was the greatest danger he had encountered since his debut. If he made a single mistake, he would die here. This was no ordinary enemy, but the might of the heavens. The lightning bolts ranged from 100 million volts to 1 billion volt. The lightning was too terrifying, especially when it was so dense that even king-level entities couldn't withstand it. This was no fairy tale. Resisting the heavenly tribulation with brute force was all nonsense. How could a human body of flesh and blood withstand tens or even hundreds of lightning bolts? Boom! Chu Feng felt terrible. He was struck a few more times in succession. He was passively attacked and had no way of dodging. It was truly unbearable and sullen. He knew that he had fallen into someone's trap. Outside the valley, that peacock was pleasantly surprised, saying, "Sir, he can't hold on any longer. Look, his entire body is scorched black like a dead fish. Each time he is sent flying, he won't budge an inch." The purple-gold woodpecker squinted his eyes and said, "This person is truly extraordinary. He actually hasn't disintegrated yet. That's very rare. The other kings who mistakenly entered died much faster than him." Then, its expression changed and it said, "This won't do. We've wasted too much time. The other kings are about to be alerted. We have to deal with him quickly or else something bad will happen." The amethyst golden mincing bird flew into the air and said, "You guys wait here. I'll cripple him and interrogate him about the imperial sword technique." It actually charged into the valley. "Sir, be careful. That is heavenly might." The peacock was shaken, shouting from behind. "Don't worry, there are blind spots here. We've already explored them thoroughly," the amethyst golden mincing bird said. It didn't dare to delay for fear that the other kings would rush over to stop it. Its body was about 5 to 6 feet long, and it was like a bolt of purple lightning streaking across the sky. Just as it said, there were some blind spots in the valley. It moved with extreme speed and soon rushed over. Chu Feng's body was badly injured, and it felt as if all the bones in his body had been broken. Even though he was circulating his special breathing technique, and his body was covered in a dense layer of mysterious energy defense, there were still bolts of lightning rushing into his body. If this went on, he would definitely die here. Just now, he had been struck 4 times in a row. He had tried to dig a hole in the ground several times and hide underground, but he found that every time he moved, the lightning would strike down in a concentrated manner. It was as if the lightning was chasing after living creatures. Phew! Later on, he tried using the thunderous breathing technique as a last resort. He was surprised to find that it had some effect. It could neutralize the lightning and temper his body. However, it was still not enough. This was an incomplete technique, and his current state was not suitable for tempering his body. In the end, he switched back to the complete and special breathing technique for defense. Suddenly, Chu Feng discovered that the purple gold woodpecker was standing in the air not too far away from him. There was actually no lightning there. Did you harm me? Chu Feng's eyes were cold. This so-called demon King Chu is only SOSO. I can kill you 10 times over in the blink of an eye, the purple gold woodpecker said disdainfully. Chu Feng knew that he had been careless. Mount Kunlun had obscured his divine instincts, and he had thought that there was no danger in the 2 oxen's territory. In fact, that was not the case at all. He realized that no matter where he was, he could not let his guard down. This was a terrifying lesson. In the depths of Mount Kunlun, the 2 oxen came out from the underground palace. They were complaining about their bad luck because they had not obtained anything. The underground palace was empty. We pay our respects to the Ox King, a beast race member reported, telling them that a person called Chu Feng had entered Mount Kunlun. He's here so quickly? The yellow cattle was astonished, but then became delighted. He called out to the black yak and said, "Let's go and welcome him together." "The bird king has already met with him," one of the yaks whispered. "At least he's considerate. This woodpecker knows how to conduct himself. This time, I've decided to let him follow us to the Vatican," the black yak said. Recently, the 2 of them had a good relationship with the purple gold woodpecker. The black yak had once told Chu Feng that he had found another helper, and it was none other than the woodpecker. That was because he felt that the woodpecker's ability to fly would be of great use when the time came. In truth, the purple gold woodpecker had been fawning over them recently. He was very respectful and warm, almost as if he was trying to make friends with them. It was indeed easy to develop a good impression of him. "Haha, it's not bad that the woodpecker will welcome him in our stead. Let's go," the black yak laughed. "Sire, I've just received news that the Bird King has lured that Chu Feng into the gates of hell. Moreover, there are flashes of lightning there. It's not good," the yak whispered. After discovering this, he immediately rushed over to inform the 2 oxen. "What?" The black yak was shocked. His expression changed drastically as he realized something was wrong. He couldn't help but let out a roar that shook the entire mountain range. He roared, "Damn it, this woodpecker is harboring malicious intentions. He's been approaching us on purpose." Yellow Cattle was also furious. "Let's go and save Chu Feng." The 2 had just come out from the underground palace. When they looked up, they saw faintly discernible flashes of lightning in the distance. Something big had happened there. They had never imagined that Chu Feng would be able to arrive so quickly from a distance of 8,000 kilometers. Moreover, he had encountered an accident that shouldn't have happened. The purple gold woodpecker actually dared to do such a thing. "Kill! I'll skin him alive!" The black yak roared as he rushed over. He felt that he had been deceived and had lost a lot of face. He had been deceived by this malevolent bird king. Within the valley, the purple gold woodpecker was loftily suspended in the air. He mocked, "What do you think? I didn't even need to lift a finger to deal with you. It was too easy. There was no challenge at all. As I see it, you're just a chicken or a stray dog that can be easily obliterated." Chu Feng looked at him coldly and said, "You're just a despicable feathered beast that took advantage of the asymmetry of information to play some tricks on me. But don't worry, I can still hold on. I won't die today." Today's defeat was mainly because he had placed too much trust in his divine instincts. However, Mount Kunlun was extremely special and had misled him. "Ha, aren't you very strong? You're called Demon King Chu, the veteran who killed Mount Pan. How come you're so weak now? Use your flying knife if you can, ha ha." The purple gold woodpecker laughed unbridledly as he taunted Chu Feng. In truth, time was of the essence. He had always been crafty and didn't want to take the risk to kill Chu Feng. Instead, he wanted to infuriate him and force him to use his flying knife. The consequences of using metallic weapons in this minefield would be unthinkable. "Come on, use your flying knife to kill me. Haha, look at you, you're about to become a dead dog. You can't even budge an inch. What a lack of accomplishment." He clamored, trying to provoke Chu Feng further. He wanted to drive him crazy and force him to use his flying knife. "Fine, I'll satisfy you," Chu Feng said calmly. In reality, he had always wanted to use his flying sword to strike the purple gold woodpecker and kill it in midair. However, Chu Feng was afraid that the woodpecker would be alerted, evade, and escape. Now that this purple gold woodpecker was so fearless, it was exactly what Chu Feng wanted. One had to know that his scarlet flying sword was not made of metal and was extremely agile, completely unaffected by the lightning. "Demon King Chu, you disappoint me. Come on, release your flying knife and try to kill me. I'm too lazy to dodge. So what if I take 8 or 10 of your attacks?" The purple gold woodpecker said arrogantly. Half of it was acting while the other half was conceited. He had long since regarded Chu Feng as a dead man and was waiting for him to lose all his combat strength. Then, he would kidnap him and force him to hand over his imperial sword technique. Chi! It was at this time that a resplendent sword light rushed out. The scarlet blade shot into the air like a bolt of lightning. "No!" The purple gold woodpecker was completely shocked. At this moment, all the feathers on his body stood on end because he discovered that the concentrated lightning was not attracted by the flying knife at all. "What's going on?" This was the question in the depths of his heart. At the same time, he quickly moved to the side in an attempt to evade this terrifying attack. But it was too late. With a pft, one of its wings was cut off, causing blood to spurt out in all directions. The woodpecker let out a blood-curdling screech as one of its wings was chopped off. It could no longer hang in the air and fell head first to the ground. Chapter 150. Outside of the valley, the golden falcon was originally quite excited because Demon King Chu was about to be beheaded. The bird king had personally arrived to kill him. But suddenly, he was stunned and his body froze. Peacock was also basking in the joy of revenge. He wanted to see Chu Feng being beheaded, but at this moment, a cold air assaulted him from head to toe. "Oh God, sire!" The two birds cried out in unison. How could this be? The bird king suffered a calamity and fell to the ground. Within the valley, the purple gold woodpecker was in incomparable pain. One of his wings had been detached from his body. This was a serious injury to him. This was equivalent to a human losing an arm. Fresh blood gushed out from his body and dyed the ground red. He fell to the ground and rolled about continuously. Even a king-level entity could not bear the pain of losing a wing. He cried out miserably and was drenched in blood. Crack! The most terrifying thing was that when the lightning descended, a streak of azure lightning directly struck its body. Some of the purple gold plume feathers immediately exploded, and it flew outwards. The purple gold woodpecker was also struck by lightning. Once or twice was fine, but after that, he would not be able to bear it. This was a trial of life and death. Ah! He let out a loud cry as he endured the pain and stabilized his body. His eyes were full of agony and hatred as he stared at the distant Chu Feng. This turn of events had exceeded his expectations. Everything was originally under his control, but he had never expected that he would fall into the gates of hell at the last moment. He had always been crafty, cautious. From the way he schemed against Chu Feng, it was clear that he did not want to rush to the front and wanted to borrow external forces to kill him. If it wasn't for the fact that he was running out of time and was about to alarm the other Beast Kings, he would not have stepped into such a dangerous place. Today, he had made such a huge mistake and felt that he was in danger of dying. He was horrified and filled with hatred as he stared fixedly at Chu Feng. "Feathered beast, you're really interesting. What's the saying? Don't pretend. The moment you pretend, you'll be struck by lightning." Chu Feng was gritting his teeth and laughing while enduring the pain. However, his smile quickly froze because he felt that he had also been scolded. After all, he had also been struck by lightning. Chu Feng flew into a rage out of humiliation. This was the first time he had been tormented so miserably by someone. He did not know how many lightning bolts he had been struck by, and he had almost died here. Chi! The scarlet flying sword streaked across the sky. Its speed was simply too fast. It transformed into a red bolt of lightning as it cleaved down with the intention of beheading the bird king. Pooh! The purple gold woodpecker was indeed extraordinary. It spat out a beam of purple light as soon as it opened its beak. This was an ability it had obtained after severing its second shackle. It was like a sword radiance that could easily destroy anything. This was also the reason why it was so eager to learn the Imperial sword technique. It was similar to the ability it had obtained, and if the two were to be combined, its combat strength would definitely skyrocket. Dang dang dang! Sparks flew everywhere, and the scarlet flying sword was temporarily blocked. This slash from Chu Feng was comparable to the old weasel's attack back then, but it still could not break through the purple woodpecker's purple light. The next moment, the flying sword abruptly erupted with radiance. Chu Feng had utilized an even greater amount of spiritual energy. The palm-sized scarlet flying sword was like a red sun as it soared through the sky, emitting resplendent radiance and terrifying might. Pooh! The purple gold woodpecker could not block it. The beam of purple light was dispersed, and the scarlet flying sword streaked past at extreme speed, cutting open a wound on its abdomen. Even though its feathers were comparable to metal and clanged loudly upon contact, it was useless. It was still cleaved open, and fresh blood gushed out from the wound. Ah! The purple gold woodpecker let out a miserable cry as its feathers stood on end. Blood flowed continuously from its abdomen. It had never suffered such a serious injury before. With a bang, Chu Feng was struck by a bolt of green lightning. His entire body was flung away, and he had to temporarily stop his attack. This place was extremely terrifying, and lightning would strike down from time to time. The purple gold woodpecker's eyes were filled with hatred. It hoped that if Chu Feng died in the lightning, it would be able to survive. It retreated, hoping to hide in the lightning's blind spot. It knew a few locations. However, while it was retreating, another bolt of lightning struck it, causing some of its feathers to be blasted away, leaving behind a trail of blood. Chi! At the same time, a scarlet radiance blossomed as a palm-sized flying sword streaked across the sky. Its murderous aura overflowed to the heavens, and its radiance was as beautiful and cruel as the sunset, dyeing the entire area red. The purple gold woodpecker let out an angry cry as it retreated while spitting out purple light to defend against the flying sword. Unfortunately, it could not block it at all. This scarlet sword was unstoppable, and it once again cut through the purple radiance. With a pu sound, a deep gash appeared on its back. If it weren't for the fact that it was a king-level entity, it would have long since been cleaved in half. Even so, it was still terrified because the gash seemed to go straight through its back. The injury was too serious. Boom! Its body glowed, and a layer of purple light appeared where its wings had been. It was going all out, not hesitating to expend its energy to form a pair of wings of light in order to escape this dangerous situation. However, doing so consumed too much energy. If Chu Feng caught up to it, it would most likely be killed and lose the ability to fight to the death. However, this was its personality. It was not willing to fight in a desperate situation. With a swoosh, it soared into the sky. Although it had been struck by lightning once and its body was shaken, it still rushed towards the lightning's blind spot in an attempt to escape the valley. Clang! The sound of the sword was crisp and clear. Chu Feng had been staring at it all this time. Amidst the lightning, the flying sword once again rushed up and slashed at the woodpecker's body. This time, it was almost cleaved in half. Accompanied by a rain of blood, a terrifying wound appeared on its body, and even its innards were about to be exposed. Moreover, the purple wings were shattered, and the woodpecker once again fell to the ground. "You still want to escape?" Chu Feng coldly said. How could he allow the woodpecker to escape? His imperial sword technique had already surpassed that of the old weasel, and there was nothing it couldn't overcome. If it wasn't for the fear of the lightning injuring his spirit, he would have long since slashed out horizontally. Now, he was very careful, and would only attack when the lightning was sparse. "Quick, lift up the copper pillar." The purple-gold woodpecker roared towards the outside of the valley. He had discovered that it was impossible to outlast Chu Feng to death, and he himself might be killed first. There was no way he could block the imperial sword technique. Outside the valley, the beasts were all dumbfounded. They had never imagined that the bird monarch's 1,000 schemes would end up throwing its life away. "Lift up the copper pillar!" The peacock and the golden falcon roared. The yak, snow leopard, Tibetan mastiff, and all sorts of other strange beasts moved out at the same time. They worked together to pull the thick iron chain up from the depths of the well. The effects were immediate and obvious. The lightning in the valley lessened and even disappeared. The purple-gold woodpecker gasped for air before standing up and retreating continuously, his eyes fixed on Chu Feng. He was waiting for the other beast kings to arrive, because some of them were on good terms with him. When the time came, they would definitely speak up for him and save his life. A roar was heard. Sure enough, the beast king he had been waiting for was a gigantic Tibetan antelope. Its horns were as sharp as broadswords, flickering with a cold light as it rushed over at extreme speed. "Who dares to behave atrociously in Mount Kunlun?" The antelope berated as it rushed towards the purple-gold woodpecker, protecting him behind it. The antelope didn't go to the underground palace to fight for the fortune because it was afraid of being ambushed there. The mountain he occupied was the closest to the valley, so he was the first to rush over. Chu Feng wasn't in a hurry to attack. Instead, he sat cross-legged and circulated his special breathing technique to treat his wounds. After the lightning had ended, he could finally take a breather. He knew how extraordinary his breathing technique was. His wounds could heal in a single night without leaving any scars. Naturally, it was also effective against lightning injuries. As expected, the pain in his body disappeared as soon as he started. "Kill him!" the purple-gold woodpecker whispered to the antelope king. He wanted him to mount a sneak attack on the injured Chu Feng. This was the best opportunity. The antelope king hesitated for a while because he had received a report and knew what had happened. If he were to attack Chu Feng, would the 2 oxen fight him to the death? He has the imperial sword technique and is on the verge of death. "Kill him and we'll go seek refuge with the Peacock King," the purple-gold woodpecker urged. At this time, Chu Feng had finished his breathing technique. He opened his eyes and stood up. After regulating his breathing, his body was no longer stiff. The numbness from the lightning strike had completely disappeared and he could move again. At this time, he was no longer worried. Not only could he use the imperial sword technique, but he could also fight with his physical body. Chu Feng's eyes were cold as he stared at the purple-gold woodpecker. "I'll definitely kill you. Demon King Chu, what are you trying to do?" This is Mount Kunlun, it's not a place for you to behave atrociously, the Antelope King said coldly. He stood in front of the purple gold woodpecker, protecting him. The two were very close. Clang! The sound of a sword was crisp and clear. The scarlet flying knife in front of Chu Feng glowed. He stared at the Antelope King and said coldly, "You want to stand out? If you dare to stop me, I'll kill you as well." "How dare you?" The Antelope King was furious. As the king of Mount Kunlun, it was rare for him to be disobeyed. Now that someone was pointing a sword at him, he revealed a dense killing intent. In this place, the strong preyed on the weak. Since he had a good relationship with the purple gold woodpecker, he naturally wanted to help him. Without a word, Chu Feng used his spiritual energy to control the flying knife and slashed it forward. Scarlet light blossomed as the resplendent sword light tore through the air towards the Antelope King. "You dare!" the Antelope King growled. His thick horns glowed like heavenly blades as he forcefully blocked the terrifying attack. However, with a clang, in an instant, a small piece of its horn was cut off, falling to the ground. "You!" The Antelope King was furious. His whole body glowed with a terrifying aura as his horns became even more resplendent. He fought fiercely with Chu Feng. Chu Feng was not afraid at all. He took out his flying knife and charged towards the Antelope King. Meanwhile, his real body rushed towards the purple gold woodpecker. He immediately circulated his special breathing technique and activated the demon ox fist. He immediately used his most powerful move to deal a fatal blow. Roar! The roar of beasts could be heard from afar. Apparently, there were beast kings approaching. The battle here was astonishing. Chu Feng fought 1 against 2 and fiercely exchanged blows with the two kings. Sword light flashed and, with a clang, cut off another part of the Antelope King's horn. This caused the Antelope King to be both shocked and furious. The purple gold woodpecker fought with all his might, trying to block Chu Feng's terrifying fists. However, in the end, he discovered that he was no match for Chu Feng. Moreover, his wounds were still bleeding, and he had lost a lot of blood essence. "Who's behaving atrociously?" The yellow cattle appeared in the distance. "Who dares to bully my brother?" The black yak had also arrived. His roar shook the heavens. At the same time, more experts appeared in the distance. Among them were humanoid beasts and graceful beauties. They were all beast kings of Mount Kunlun. A group of fierce beasts from Mount Kunlun had arrived. Many pairs of eyes glanced over in astonishment. Boom! At this time, the curtains fell on Chu Feng's battle with the purple gold woodpecker. He had used his most powerful fists, and with the support of his special breathing technique, his power had increased explosively. He had blasted the bird king apart. The fierce beasts were all beast kings. They had just arrived and saw this scene. They all drew in a breath of cold air. Clang! The scarlet flying knife exploded with dazzling radiance. It directly cut off the Antelope King's horn, causing it to fall to the ground, stained with blood. Outside the valley, the golden eagle and peacock were trembling. They had personally witnessed the fall of the purple gold woodpecker and were so frightened that they almost fainted. At the same time, they recalled the news they had sent to their clansmen not long ago. It said that Chu Feng was about to fall and that the Bird King was about to kill him. It seemed that they had received the news too early. Within the peacock race, an old man was very excited because he had received a picture of Chu Feng in tattered clothes. He was covered in lightning and was in a desperate situation. A purple gold woodpecker was hovering in the air. His entire body was emitting a purple gold divine radiance. He looked incomparably heroic as he looked down at Chu Feng. Many beast race experts had gathered within the peacock race. They were all looking at this picture and felt that Chu Feng was about to be beheaded. The world will be shaken when his head falls to the ground. Demon King Chu is finally going to die. Just wait and see. Some of the beast race experts were laughing non-stop. Chapter 151. Although it was within the peacock race, there were also other beast races such as the ash wolf, golden eagle, and pangolin. At this time, a young man stood up. He was of medium build and fair skin, but he was not weak. His eyes were bright and full of expression. He was the descendant of the ash wolf. Everyone, killing Demon King Chu is an earth-shattering event. We should plan for it and use it to shock the world to its fullest extent. Many beast race experts glanced at him and felt that his words were reasonable. "What do you want to do?" a quasi-king from the peacock race asked. "Create momentum, exaggerate the results of this battle." The young ash wolf's eyes were burning with passion as he directly expressed his thoughts. He didn't even try to hide it and said that he was imitating the human race, giving them a taste of their own medicine. The young ash wolf suggested that from now on, they should post a picture of Chu Feng's suffering every once in a while to attract the attention of the world. At the last moment, they should offer up his head. It would be incomparably shocking. That's feasible. Many beast race experts nodded in agreement. If this continued, it would produce a shocking effect and intimidate the world. At this time, they already had 5 or 6 pictures in their hands, which was enough. These beast race experts were quite decisive and quickly took action. The main reason was that they had been quite resentful recently. A mere young human king was actually suppressing them to the point where they couldn't even breathe. Now that Chu Feng was about to be beheaded, it was definitely worth exaggerating. After the first picture was posted, the waves weren't that great. But as the second and third pictures appeared, the internet was no longer calm. People were shocked to find that Chu Feng had fallen into a mysterious area and was coughing up blood after being struck by lightning. This was definitely a major incident. What exactly was going on? What kind of area was that? Why were there lightning descending from the sky? It was extremely strange and somewhat terrifying. After the fourth picture appeared, many people were shaken. A bolt of azure lightning struck Chu Feng's body and sent him flying. Lightning and a rain of blood coexisted. "Boss, where are you? What's going on?" Du Huijin, Ouyang Qing, and the others could no longer sit still. Within the hollow jade temple, Lu Tong also stood up and gazed out of the window with a gloomy expression. Within a short period of time, the pictures became the topic of discussion and attracted the attention of all parties. Is Demon King Chu undergoing tribulation? Jiang Luoshan was astonished. She stared at the pictures with wide eyes. Many people dialed Chu Feng's communicator, but no one answered their calls. All the major corporations were alarmed and were paying close attention. The beasts are finally making their move. They're going to eliminate Chu Feng and establish their dominance. The major powers were very sharp and immediately made a judgment. This was the counterattack and revenge of the beast race. From their point of view, Chu Feng was in grave danger and could very well be killed. The beast race would not allow him to live and wanted to use this as a warning to the world. However, if he was able to endure this ordeal, the title of Demon King Chu would become even more resounding. He would be acknowledged by all parties, and even the beast kings wouldn't dare to make a move against him. The last image appeared. This time, Chu Feng was covered in blood, and his situation was even worse. He was covered by a bolt of lightning, and it was hard to tell whether he was dead or alive. No one knew if he could survive this attack. Apart from this, there was another beast in the picture. It was a bird king with a lustrous purple body. It stood in midair, looking down at Chu Feng with a cold gaze. This was a contrast. The king of the beast race had appeared. It was like a king of the beast race, unafraid of lightning and looking down on the human race. Furthermore, there was a line of words below the picture. It was simple and straightforward. Demon King Chu? Too weak. He can't even withstand a single blow. The internet was in an uproar. Many people felt that things weren't looking good. People realized that the beast race was serious. This time, they wouldn't rest until they killed Chu Feng. From the moment the first picture was released, everything had been within their grasp. At that time, the beast race had already determined that Chu Feng would die without a doubt. This was a perilous situation. Every region was no longer calm. All the major corporations sighed. The beast race was truly ruthless this time. They definitely had a sure kill method. That was why they were so fearless in releasing the pictures. Everyone understood that the beast race was doing this on purpose. They would release a picture every once in a while, pushing forward step by step until they finally announced that Chu Feng had been killed. Many beast race experts were in high spirit. This was a pleasant surprise for them, a great piece of news. Amidst the raging storm, many beast race experts were cheering. The Bird King is mighty. Today we shall display our peerless might. There's a good saying, don't pretend or else you'll be struck by lightning. Demon King Chu has perfectly illustrated this saying, haha. The beast race was making fun of them without the slightest scruple. They had been holding back this anger for many days. Today they felt especially carefree and at ease. Many humans were furious, but there was nothing they could do. Perhaps they were about to hear bad news. Many people felt that news of Chu Feng's death was about to spread. Shuntian, within the Imperial Entertainment Club. Hu Sheng, Xiong Kun, Lu Qing, and a group of other beast race youths were gathered together. They had also received the news. Some were shocked, some were jumping for joy, and some were laughing loudly. Not long ago, they had been suppressed miserably by Chu Feng. Today, they could finally vent their resentment. Even Demon King Chu has such a day? Xiong Kun was very excited. Just yesterday, he was still begging his grandfather and grandmother for help, worried that Chu Feng would wipe out his entire clan. However, today, the situation had suddenly reversed. Suddenly, he noticed that Hu Xing's mouth was closed. His slender eyes were flickering with a radiant light, but he still refused to speak. This caused Xiong Kun to shiver. He was afraid of Hu Xing's cautious attitude. This fox had been practicing silent meditation twice, and both times, something big had happened. Hu Xing, what do you mean? Don't scare me. Xiong Kun glared at him. The others also looked over. Wait a moment, don't be in such a rush to celebrate, Hu Xing spoke. He did not say anything bad about Chu Feng. I can't wait any longer. I want to celebrate on social media platforms, someone said. He wanted to express his joy. Suddenly, Xiong Kun's communicator rang. It was his grandfather, the Black Bear. After the call was answered, the old Black Bear immediately warned him to keep quiet at this time. If he dared to say one more word, he would be beaten to death. What does the old man mean? Isn't he being too cautious? Xiong Kun mumbled, but he still felt a little guilty. Last time, he had indeed tricked his grandfather. He had misunderstood that Chu Feng was going to exterminate their race to deliver a message to his grandfather. In the end, he had almost caused a huge misunderstanding and harmed his grandfather. The internet was in an uproar. The impact of this matter was too great. The beast race was stirred up, and many couldn't help but stand out to express their excitement. They were celebrating in advance and expressing their joy. As for the humans, they could only sigh in anger, but there was nothing they could do. So much so that some beast race experts declared that today would be the day to exterminate the demon. They were extremely ostentatious. The Bird King is so powerful that he treats Chu Feng as if he's nothing. He says he's too weak and can be easily killed. How delightful! Doubtlessly, this moment belonged to the beast race. They began to celebrate in advance. However, the last image of Chu Feng's decapitation had yet to appear. Many beast race experts were waiting impatiently until the very end. Mount Kunlun, Hell's Gate. The ox's roar shook the heavens like thunder. Clang! The black yak raised his hoof in an incomparably berserk manner. It was unknown how many times he had attacked, but the Antelope King was sent flying. You dare touch my brother? Are you tired of living? He stood up straight and madly chased after the Antelope King. With another slap of his hoof, the Antelope King was once again sent flying with a thump. "You've gone too far. Are you bullying us because we're good-natured?" The yellow ox also attacked. He used the demon ox fist and raised his hoof. Accompanied by a resplendent golden light, the Antelope King was sent flying into the air with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. Again, the black yak was waiting in the distance. Seeing the Antelope King descend, he rushed over and brandished his black hooves, producing sonic booms. The Antelope King was in a miserable state. Both of his giant horns had been cut off by Chu Feng's flying knife. This had greatly reduced his strength. At that time, the 2 oxen rushed over and were furious. They told Chu Feng to rest at the side and decisively attacked. These 2 oxen were simply too violent. Within moments, they had treated the Antelope King like a rubber ball. They hit him left and right, breaking all his bones and tendons. That was because the Woodpecker King was already dead. Chu Feng had personally killed him, leaving only the unlucky Antelope King as their punching bag. This was even after the other beast kings had tried to dissuade them. Otherwise, the 2 oxen would have killed him on the spot. This was Mount Kunlun. Although the strong preyed on the weak, the beast kings had formed an alliance and set down rules. Under normal circumstances, they were not allowed to kill each other. "Old ox enough. Go easy on him. A living Antelope King is better than a dead one. Let him be a sheep or a horse for you." One of the beast kings dissuaded them, cleverly replacing the words "be a sheep" or "a horse." A group of ferocious beasts rushed over, most of them in human form. They were the first to understand what had happened. They did not sympathize with the purple-gold Woodpecker King's death. This was indeed his own doing. Even if he was a beast king of Mount Kunlun, there was no reason for him to avenge him. Chu Feng was the brother of the 2 oxen, but the purple-gold Woodpecker King had actually tried to kill him. This had touched the bottom line of the Kunlun beast kings. After all, they had friends. If an old friend of theirs was plotted against by a beast king, who would be able to bear it? None of them wanted to see such a thing happen. Chu Feng changed into a new set of clothes and carried his bow, arrow, and black dagger on his back. Surprisingly, none of his belongings were damaged. Even his communicator wasn't struck by lightning. This made him speechless. He was the only one being chased by the lightning. Chu Feng pondered. This area was indeed strange. The lightning only chased after living beings and killed them in a certain direction. "Old ox, little yellow, that's enough. If you continue, this antelope will really die." At this time, a black-haired middle-aged man walked over. His long hair hung loosely over his shoulders, and his aura was extremely imposing. There seemed to be a vast ocean of energy lying dormant within his body. Vaguely, there was a terrifying blood energy emanating from within. This was a peerless expert. "Very well, since the Mastiff King has spoken, I'll spare its life. But let's make things clear first. It's so disobedient that it will have to listen to our orders for a period of time," the black yak said. Chu Feng looked suspiciously at the black-haired middle-aged man. That astonishing aura was somewhat familiar. Could it be that he was the Tibetan Mastiff that appeared on Mount Kunlun? A beautiful woman in palace attire walked over. Her long green hair was smooth and supple, and her skin was fair and supple. She looked at Chu Feng and said, "Little brother is truly extraordinary. At such a young age, you can already fight against 2 beast kings and easily kill the bird king. Your combat strength is truly admirable." Apparently, she was a king-level entity, but it was unknown which race she belonged to. "Although we've lost a king, with this brother joining us, our Mount Kunlun is still unscathed." Another silver-haired man laughed heartily as he walked over. He looked to be in his 30s and looked rather valiant. It was obvious that the 2 oxen were quite popular. No one dared to make things difficult for Chu Feng because he had killed the bird king. Instead, they were actively accepting this brother of theirs. The main reason was that the yellow cattle was extremely knowledgeable and had indeed provided a lot of enlightenment and help to some of the beast kings. The black yak, on the other hand, was carefree and easygoing. Normally, he would get along well with others. For instance, he would drag the beast kings to the cinema to watch Demon Ox the Great Sage. This fellow looked boorish, but he was very good at acting like an ox. The Antelope King was in a miserable state after suffering grievous injuries. In the end, he braced himself and came to apologize, expressing his willingness to compensate Chu Feng. In the end, this group of fierce beasts talked and laughed. They all said that they would go to the Ox King Palace to celebrate and drink a few cups of wine. The atmosphere was quite harmonious. Brothers, sisters, I was too impulsive today. I was tricked into a dangerous place and almost died. I was enraged and couldn't help but kill that bird king. Chu Feng cupped his fists and explained. Since this group of king-level entities was quite amicable, at least on the surface, he naturally had to express his stance, albeit in a low-key manner. Display his strength? This battle was enough. There was no need to be ostentatious at the moment. That would only increase the disgust of others. Oh, little brother, something big has happened in the outside world. You'd better hurry and clarify things so that some people won't make a mistake and your family and friends won't be worried. The lady in palace attire was all smiles as she approached with graceful steps. Her beautiful face was extremely moving and her skin was so supple that it seemed as if it would break with the slightest breeze. Chu Feng hurriedly looked at the news on his communicator and immediately knew what had happened. There were people in the outside world who wanted to cause a huge commotion and were currently building up momentum. It could be said that these people had successfully accumulated their power and were only waiting for the final eruption. Chu Feng thought for a moment before arriving in front of the purple-gold woodpecker's mangled body. He took a selfie with the bird king's corpse and the terrifying lightning marks on the ground as the background. Chapter 152. A picture accompanied by a few simple words silenced the clamor of the outside world. Not a single sound could be heard. Originally, there was clamor, the beast race was showing off, the humans were cursing, and the different factions were discussing like a pot of boiling water. But now, everyone was like a clay statue, the whole world had sunk into a deathly silence. Everyone was petrified and dumbfounded. Aolo! Ouyang Qing let out a long howl. He was indescribably excited. He had originally thought that Chu Feng would suffer a calamity this time and be schemed against by the beast race. In the end, Chu Feng's picture had shattered all the rumors. The next moment, it was as if a great earthquake had struck the internet. The silence was broken in an instant as countless people left comments under the picture. Everyone's emotions had been completely ignited. Everyone was shocked. This time, it seemed as if Chu Feng had been holding back his ultimate move and was only releasing it at the last moment. Not long ago, some people were feeling sad that he had been ambushed by the beast race and was about to die in that mysterious region. Who would have thought that the tables would turn in the end? Immortal Chu, you're too mighty. Are you really transcending the tribulation? You even withstood the heavenly lightning. Even the heavens can't take you away. I was thinking about how the beast race was celebrating just now. What's the feeling now? As expected of Demon King Chu. Did you guys notice? The ground behind him not only has the traces of lightning, but also that so-called peerless bird king. This is the rhythm of a powerful attack. Look at the expressions of those people who were cheering for the peerless bird king. Haha. The internet was in an uproar. Everyone was in an uproar as a vast amount of messages appeared at the same time. Many people were extremely excited and left comments to express their feelings. Before long, Chu Feng's picture had been forwarded hundreds of thousands of times and was still increasing at a terrifying rate. Countless people were participating. Not to mention ordinary people, even those famous celebrities were dizzy. This was simply an explosion of popularity. The entire media platforms were boiling over. All the major corporations were stunned. Earlier on, even they had thought that Chu Feng was in danger and that the beast race held the absolute initiative. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so confident in releasing the picture. Who would have thought that everything would change when the final moment arrived? Everyone felt their scalps go numb when they heard this news. Everyone's predictions were wrong. Chu Feng was still alive and had killed a bird king in a domineering manner. This was the second king-level entity killed by Chu Feng. This was the second king-level entity Chu Feng had killed after the Mount Pan ancestor. Now, even the humans felt that Chu Feng had the potential to become a great demon king. He was simply too valiant. Not only did he not die from the lightning, but he also killed that bird king in the end. He was extremely tyrannical. Ever since his debut, he had encountered danger several times, but in the end, he had risen to power, suppressing those veteran powerhouses who seemed to be peerless for the time being, taking them all down from their high horses. For a moment, the internet was like a tsunami, and countless people were discussing it. All the major corporations were re-evaluating him. In the end, they raised his strength to a whole new level, believing that he was even more tyrannical than they had imagined. At this time, many of the beast races were silent. It was truly hard to imagine that things would end like this. After such a long time, some of the beast race members were still frozen in place with stupefied expressions. They simply couldn't accept this result. It was simply too great of a blow. Originally, this was the situation they had been leading. They had been building momentum and pushing forward step by step until everyone's emotions were at an all-time high. Just as they were about to vent their frustrations to their heart's content, they were struck down from the heavens into the bottomless abyss. The contrast was so great that many of the beast race members were dumbfounded. They simply couldn't accept it. For instance, the peacock race was still deathly silent even after such a long time had passed. One had to know that there was a large group of beast race members in the hall. Among them were quasi-beast kings from the falcon race, ash-wolf race, and peacock race. Now they were all petrified. Everyone was dumbfounded by the message. What happened to the beheading? They were already counting down to celebrate Chu Feng's tragic death. But in the end it was such a grievous news. These beast race members were filled with grief and indignation. There was a flame burning in their chests, and they felt as though their entire bodies were about to be torn apart. This incident was all caused by them. Step by step, they had pushed the matter of Demon King Chu's death to its climax. All that was left was for the final blow. But at the last moment, they had made a blunder. This was even worse than lifting a rock to smash one's own foot. These beast race members had personally participated in the entire incident, yet they had to wait for such an outcome. In the end, their momentum was extremely successful. They had stirred up everyone's emotions and inflamed the atmosphere to the extreme. But in the end, it wasn't Chu Feng who was beheaded, but rather, it was his glorious battle record of killing a king-level expert. These people had actually worked so hard just to make Chu Feng look like a god of war. This was even worse than a slap to the face. It was a perfect example of what not to do. Saying that they had worked so hard for nothing was an exaggeration. They were humiliating themselves. In the end, someone finally couldn't take it anymore and let out a loud cry. Following which, the entire hall was torn apart as a group of beast race members rushed out in rage. Everyone was enraged to the point of madness. Where's the person who sent the message? Even the old fellows from these races were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. Their bodies were trembling, and they almost had a heart attack. They roared and wanted to contact the peacock and golden falcon of Mount Kunlun to ask them what was going on. In the end, they received a reply not long after the message was sent, but it was only a photograph. The background of the photograph was Mount Kunlun. Within a large pot, a plucked peacock and a skinned falcon were being boiled. They were golden in color, and seemed to be on the verge of being cooked as steam rose from their bodies. Ah! The quasi-king level expert of the peacock race was so angry that he cried out repeatedly, "Demon King Chu, you've gone too far! Too far!" The group of old fellows stomped their feet in anger, fuming from their 7 orifices. Today's matter was extremely humiliating and suffocating to the point that their bodies were about to bleed. So much so that 2 old fellows fainted from anger. They simply couldn't take it anymore. At this time, they were not the only ones who had gone from being pleasantly surprised to being shocked and resentful. Suwani was also dumbfounded. She had just opened a bottle of red wine in preparation to celebrate, but in the end, her face had turned pale. The beast race experts from all over had experienced great joy and great sorrow. It was as if they were on a roller coaster. Where was the promised beheading of Demon King Chu? How come that arrogant bird king who had said that Chu Feng couldn't withstand a single blow was killed in the end? Moreover, his body had been blasted into pieces. Jiang Luoshan was practicing ancient yoga. Her jade-white arms were supporting her body from the ground, while her slender legs were in the air. She was in the middle of performing difficult movements with her black hair hanging loosely behind her. When she received the news, she was so shocked that she fell to the ground and let out a cry of pain. This guy really knows how to act. No wonder he was struck by lightning. But did he kill another king-level entity? That's too cruel. She mumbled. Shuntian, Imperial Entertainment Club. Xiong Kuan's eyes were wide open and he was at a loss for words. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Could it be that Demon King Chu was actually a demon? This was simply heaven-defying. Lu Qing and the other beast race experts were also speechless. They were secretly rejoicing that they hadn't made any extreme statements beforehand. At this point, they couldn't help but feel grateful to Hu Sheng. When they looked at him, they found that his mouth was tightly shut, not saying a single word. This silent meditation was truly miraculous. At this time, Xiong Kuan's communicator rang. It was the black bear calling. When the call was connected, the elder bear's violent voice came through. "Bear cub, you didn't trick your father and grandfather this time, did you?" "No, grandfather. I promise I didn't cause any trouble this time, I swear." Xiong Kuan was full of confidence. At this moment, every beast race was talking about Demon King Chu. Killing 2 king-level entities in a row was definitely not a fluke. This person had once again used his glorious battle record to prove his strength and tyranny. The various beast kings were deeply apprehensive. Last time, there were some who were unconvinced and directly provoked him. Now, apart from the Peacock King, who else would dare to provoke Demon King Chu? This was the glory of killing, the elegance of fighting. Anyone who wanted to touch him would have to first consider whether they had the qualifications or not. At Mount Kunlun, the Ox King Palace was situated on a majestic mountain. This was one of the best terrains in Mount Kunlun. A silver waterfall hung down from the top of the mountain, creating a magnificent sight. On top of the cliff, an old pine tree seemed to be welcoming guests. It stretched out its verdant branches, emitting a green luster. There were all kinds of extraordinary trees growing on the majestic mountain. They bore sparkling and translucent flowers of beautiful purples and brilliant reds, filling the air with a strong fragrance. "Chu Feng!" Zhou Quan cried out. He had been in closed-door cultivation these days. Today, when he was informed that Chu Feng had arrived, he rushed out like a gust of wind. He was extremely excited. "Oh heavens, I've finally seen a human!" Zhou Quan cried out as he embraced Chu Feng passionately. His hair was combed back and shiny, and the 4 horns on his head were even more spectacular. The Ox King Palace was a majestic palace built by the beast race. It was situated on the peak of the mountain, overlooking the scenery in all 4 directions. Currently, the depths of Mount Kunlun are inaccessible due to the bewildering fog. The mountain peak we are occupying is one of the best, Yellow Cattle introduced. It was not very old, but it was trying its best to act like an old man. Its golden fur was like satin. Yellow Cattle, the other beast kings have all transformed. Why don't you transform? Let me see what you look like, urged Chu Feng. Yellow Cattle cast a sidelong glance at him with a look of disdain. With a tender voice, he said, "This king is upright and upright. I only need to reveal my divine form. There's no need to transform." However, a single sentence from Zhou Quan exposed him. "I know what it looks like. I've seen it transform before." Zhou Quan was very excited. Chu Feng was immediately overjoyed after hearing this. He urged, "Tell me quickly. The great Tao is the simplest." Yellow Cattle shouted. Clang! 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 He slapped the back of Zhou Quan's head with his two hooves, causing him to roll his eyes and faint. Yellow Cattle was fairly calm. He didn't even look at Chu Feng as he walked away leisurely. On the other side, the Black Yak was greeting the other beast kings and inviting them into the Ox King Palace. He then shouted to his subordinates, "Little ones, go and prepare some fine wine and delicacies. Today we'll welcome my brother and the other beast kings." Chu Feng was quite surprised. There was a group of beast kings in the Ox King Palace. Their strength was not to be underestimated. The Black Yak had the demeanor of a demon king. The Black Yak reminded, "Be careful. Clean up that woodpecker and divide it into several portions. Stew those that need to be stewed and roast those that need to be roasted. The taste must be delicious. If I'm satisfied, I'll reward you handsomely." At this time, some of the beast kings turned around and looked at him. The Black Yak felt a bit guilty and said, "My brother was struck by lightning today. His body is too weak and needs some nourishment. I think it's a waste to keep that beast king's body anyway. Why don't we cook it and let everyone have a taste?" "Good, that's how it should be." Some of the beast kings were quite ferocious. There was a glimmer of hope in their eyes. They didn't care about the Bird King anymore since it was already dead. How could it compare to a living king? Only the Antelope King sighed. He felt that the purple gold woodpecker was too pitiful. Even in death, it was going to be eaten. Why did they have to go through all this trouble? At this time, his body glowed and swayed as he transformed into the appearance of a middle-aged man. However, his head was wrapped in a layer of white gauze because both of his horns had been broken. Chu Feng's flying sword had shaved off a piece of his scalp. It was quite an embarrassing sight. Within the Ox King Palace, all kinds of delicacies were being served continuously. There were large stone tables and seats in the palace. Regardless of whether these beast kings were in human form or not, they were all spacious enough. Moutai? Chu Feng's eyes widened as he discovered that the wine being served was actually a well-known brand of white wine. Heh, this is a top-grade wine that has been stored in a cellar for over 50 years. The Black Yak laughed mischievously. Who knew how he got his hands on it? Good, old ox, you're a good friend. I like this kind of rare old wine. The taste is authentic. You're a good friend. A bronze-skinned bald man shouted as he slammed the table. He was over 3 meters tall and had a terrifyingly sturdy physique. His body seemed to be cast from brass and was incomparably sturdy. Especially his bald head, it could even be said to be shiny and reflective. At this point, he grinned and looked at Chu Feng, revealing a mouthful of snow-white teeth. "Brother Chu, I see that your temperament is quite to my liking. Why don't we get married? I have a daughter who's as pretty as a flower. Do you want me to introduce her to you?" Chu Feng shook his head after hearing this. With such a big bald head, what would his daughter look like? Could it be that she was also 3 meters tall? If she didn't have any hair, then it would be even more shocking. Hey, don't misunderstand. This is the Horse King. He looks very heroic when he keeps his hair. He's currently training with an old trumpet from Tibet and had shaved off his hair, the Black Yak explained. I'm not a monk, I'm just learning skills. Even now, wine and meat can still pass through my intestines. The Horse King laughed heartily. Chu Feng was speechless. At the same time, he was also very surprised. What kind of old llama was it to be able to make this Beast King admire him and learn skills from him? Don't look down on the Horse King. He's a Beast King who came from the West. His true form is a Fergana horse with divine speed. Yellow Cattle introduced in a low voice. Chu Feng was dumbfounded. Fergana horse? Indeed, it should be living in the West. At this time, a man with a head full of silver hair came to join in the fun. He seemed to be around 30 years old. He said, "Brother Chu, I think you're not bad. This king also has a daughter who's an outstanding beauty. Do you want to marry her? I'll call her over later." Obviously, they were deliberately teasing each other. It seemed both real and fake. "This is the Snow Leopard King," Yellow Cattle introduced. Chu Feng did not neglect them and greeted them with a smile. "Hee hee, we're of the same generation. What's the big deal about you introducing your daughter? I think I'm more suitable for Brother Chu, am I right?" The beautiful woman in palace attire walked over gracefully. "She's the Weaver King," Yellow Cattle introduced. "Hello, Weaver King," Chu Feng greeted with a smile. "When the banquet is over, little brother can come with me to the Silken Cave." The Weaver King was full of smiles. Chu Feng was petrified. Weaver King, Silken Cave? Could she be a spider spirit? "All right, don't scare little brother Chu." The Mastiff King spoke. His black hair was loose and his blood energy was restrained within his body. However, as a king-level entity, everyone could sense his terrifying power. This was a peerless Beast King. The banquet began. Everyone was chatting happily. At least on the surface, they were all very friendly. They toasted and laughed incessantly. Chapter 153. With a whoosh, the entire Ox King Palace was emptied. Everyone had run away, and not a single person was left. Even Chu Feng followed the two oxen and rushed out. These beasts were extremely frantic, as though they were rushing to reincarnate. They ran like a swarm of bees. The appearance of the divine tree shook all of Kunlun. Without a doubt, the Horse King was the fastest. He immediately revealed his true form, becoming a scarlet-red Fergana horse. He was sparkling and translucent, and his entire body was covered in scarlet light. He was like a peerless heavenly steed that had descended into the world. It strode forward with its 4 huge hooves, breaking through the sound barrier directly. It could be said that it was leading the charge. The people behind it all heard the terrifying explosion in the air. Rumble, like thunder from the 9 heavens, the sound of explosions rang out incessantly on the mountain. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared like a heavenly horse soaring through the sky. The Weaver King was also very strong. She was still in human form, but she opened her mouth and spat out a streak of white light. It was spider silk, and she directly jumped off the cliff. She was dressed in a palace dress, and her figure was graceful and elegant. Her waist-length green hair danced in the wind, and her skin seemed to have solidified. Right now, she was like a fairy who was flying in the air. Moreover, she didn't want to land directly at the foot of the mountain. She wanted to swing to the opposite cliff and take a shortcut. The Snow Leopard King also moved. His white hair was loose as he moved as fast as lightning. The air around him exploded, sending sand and stones flying. His speed was equally terrifying. At the beginning, he wasn't any weaker than the Horse King. It was just that his stamina was slightly weaker. Roar! The Mastiff King let out a loud roar. He was still in the form of a middle-aged man with his black hair draped over his shoulders. He immediately dove down the mountain. With his terrifying strength, he was completely unafraid of being injured by the steep mountain. Those who were confident in their speed all set off, while those who felt that their speed wasn't enough summoned their birds of prey to fly across the sky. The Beast Kings descended the mountain and displayed their abilities. Chu Feng was together with the two oxen, sitting on the back of a crow. The crow's entire body was jet black, and its body was enormous. It was at least 10 meters long, and as it flew, it stirred up violent winds. Gwa! The crow opened its beak and let out a loud cry. Stop screaming. It's too depressing. The black yak almost hammered him. He felt that riding on this ominous bird would waste all his luck. Yes, your majesty, caw. The crow cawed loudly, and like a black gust of wind, it swooped down towards a mountain in the distance. On the way, Yellow Cattle briefly told Chu Feng about the situation. Their destination was the underground palace that they had discovered not long ago. At that time, it was empty and there were no tools inside. But there was a line of words. The withered tree has come back to life, and the divine root has recovered. At that time, they didn't find anything. There wasn't even a shadow of the so-called withered wood divine root. Who would have thought that such a change would occur not long after they left? Who? Great winds howled, and a mountain peak appeared in the distance. Even from far away, they could see multicolored light erupting from it. It was extremely dazzling, and the entire mountain was covered in it. Streaks of auspicious light cascaded down from the top of the mountain like a brilliant waterfall. A precious tree took root at the peak of the mountain, overflowing with brilliant colors. Chu Feng and the others were not the first to arrive, nor were they the last to arrive. Compared to the other mountains, this mountain was not tall. However, an underground palace had appeared here, and a mysterious tree had quickly grown out of it. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. This group of ferocious beasts were still very polite when they were at the Ox King Palace, exchanging toasts and chatting merrily. But after arriving here, all of them became solemn and silent. They all rushed up on their own, and even secretly competed with each other. The crow cawed loudly. It couldn't stop the multicolored light from descending from the peak of the mountain. With a mournful cry, it landed on the ground. The two oxen and Chu Feng had no choice but to rush up on their own. Boom! The Antelope King was rather unlucky. He was ambushed by someone and tumbled down the mountain. His mouth was full of blood, and his injuries were not light. Chu Feng's body immediately tensed up. After arriving at this place, the king-level entities that were calling each other brothers just a moment ago didn't recognize him at all and might even fight to the death. When they arrived at the peak, they saw the old underground palace under the soil and rock. However, no one went down because they had already searched the entire place. The tree at the top of the mountain was as thick as a water tank and nearly 10 meters tall. Its bark was open and coarse, and its entire body was red. Even its branches and leaves were red, emitting a brilliant scarlet light. It was like a huge torch burning, emitting an aura that made one's heart palpitate. However, in the next moment it changed again, becoming a faint golden color. Even the tree bark changed along with it, releasing golden light. Golden multicolored light surged, surrounding the mountain. This caused an uproar among the beast kings present. It was actually still changing. No wonder it was said to be full of auspicious colors and all types of multicolored light. Everyone, let's not kill each other. Look, there are many buds on the tree. Once they bloom, it will be enough for all of us to evolve. There's no need to fight to the death. King Mastiff spoke. He was very strong and had a high status in the Kunlun immortal world. Since he suggested this, the others naturally did not object. All the beast kings were staring at the tree. There were simply too many flower buds on the tree. There were at least a few hundred of them. If they were to bloom, it would definitely be a profusion of fallen petals and pollen. At the thought of that scene, all the beast kings were so excited that they wanted to roar. This meant that they could advance once again and break through more shackles in their body. Everyone, please calm down. At this time, this tree body unexpectedly transmitted a hazy will. It actually opened its mouth, exuding exuberant life force. All the beast kings were on high alert. Was this a demonic tree? Everyone retreated, feeling incomparably apprehensive. That was because they were very clear on how terrifying some of these plants were. Once they had a will, they would possess extraordinary abilities beyond their imagination. Some of them had personally experienced this before. They had seen a strange tree in the desert that could emit black flames that could burn mountains and rivers. That kind of temperature was too terrifying. Even the beast kings could not withstand it. The whole desert melted. If they had not escaped quickly enough, they would have died there. Therefore, when the tree spoke, they all retreated and were all on high alert. Only Yellow Cattle was suspicious. He recalled carefully and finally revealed an expression of pleasant surprise. He shouted in a childish voice, "You are the refinement's sacred tree?" "I should be," the tree replied. At this time, it had already turned silver and was circulating with a hazy brilliance. "Little Yellow, what is its origin?" the Horse King asked. Everyone looked at Yellow Cattle because these beast kings had already experienced this before. Yellow Cattle was extremely knowledgeable and knew many things. "We've struck it rich. How lucky! I didn't expect to see an refinement sacred tree here." Yellow Cattle was extremely happy and excited. That was because, according to him, there had never been more than 10 such trees. Any one of them was enough to cause the top powers of a world to fight over it. As time passed, some of the refinement sacred trees had already been destroyed. It was hard to say how many of them were left. This matter must be kept a secret and cannot be leaked out. Otherwise, rivers of blood will flow here one day, Yellow Cattle warned seriously. Many spaces had never heard of this tree. Even in the prosperous world it came from, there was only one such tree. The others continued to press him for an explanation. They were all very excited as to what this tree could be used for. "Of course it's to refine weapons. The weapons forged by it will surpass all the grandmasters," Yellow Cattle said. According to Yellow Cattle, as long as the materials were good enough, the refinement sacred tree would be able to refine powerful weapons that could move mountains and fill the seas. "Can it refine flying swords?" Chufeng asked. "As long as there are materials, it's a piece of cake," Yellow Cattle replied. This caused everyone to draw in a breath of cold air. "Everyone, I hope we can live in harmony. I'm just a withered root that has been revived. I don't understand this world," the refinement sacred tree said. "Don't worry, we will definitely protect you," the Mastiff King expressed. This was also what everyone was thinking. How could such a mystical ancient tree be destroyed? At their current level, they were all thinking about refining weapons. "Sacred tree, can you demonstrate to us how to refine weapons?" the Snow Leopard King asked. Yellow Cattle advised, "Don't waste it. There are only so many flower buds on the refinement sacred tree in a short period of time. Every time you use one, you'll have one less. Wait until you have truly good materials before refining." Everyone was stunned. From its words, they understood that the so-called refining of weapons did not involve using flames or hammering. It only involved using pollen to bestow spirituality on the materials and force them to transform into weapons. "Ah!" Everyone was stunned. Yellow Cattle told them that after bestowing spirituality, the quality of the materials would increase dramatically. Moreover, all the impurities would be discarded and only the essence would be left. "Actually, it's to let the weapons evolve," the tree said. Everyone was shaken after hearing this. Boom! Once they understood enough, the Beast Kings dispersed in confusion and went to look for materials. Mount Kunlun was not an ordinary place. It was known as the home of 10,000 gods. There was an 80 to 90% chance that there would be many treasures buried in the depths of the earth. Unfortunately, they could not enter the depths of Mount Kunlun as it was sealed off by a dense fog. There should be even more precious items there. In the following 2 days, the Yellow Cattle acted like a thief. It would often sneak to the mountain peak where the refinement sacred tree was located and search for something. Chufeng was the first to notice it and followed it. Only after asking did it tell him. There was definitely something good around the refinement sacred tree. It must be a peerless material. Otherwise, it would not have been able to revive. Just like that, Chu Feng and the 2 oxen began to search. After several days, they actually managed to dig out a few pieces of metal that did not seem ordinary. The other beast kings were extremely shrewd and had sent people to keep an eye on the yellow cattle. Only it knew about the refinement sacred tree's origins and was afraid that it would hide something. In the end, a group of beast kings ran over and began to search the entire mountain. This kind of thing could not be hidden even if they wanted to. Let's make this clear first, don't hurt our relationship. Whoever finds it gets to keep it. Don't kill, don't rob. The group of fierce fellows decided on the rules after some discussion. In truth, they really wanted to ask the refinement sacred tree what was here. However, it was only a withered root and did not know anything. These beast kings attacked with great momentum and almost flipped the entire mountain over. They plowed the ground several meters deep and almost tore the entire mountain apart. Some of the beast kings found strange materials that were not ordinary and were extremely hard. Chu Feng naturally did not stay idle. He used his scarlet flying knife to hack at the soil. Anything that could not be destroyed would be dug out. His efficiency was more than 10 times that of others. In the end, he found a piece of material the size of a human head. It was black in color, but its weight was astonishing. It was over 5,000 kilograms. After that, he immediately ran away and no longer participated in the search. He knew that this item was definitely not ordinary. He had found some metal tools underground. Even though they were not destroyed by the flying knife, they had left marks on them. Only this piece could not be damaged. It was just too hard. Especially since it was so heavy. It was truly strange. In truth, everyone was very satisfied. They all felt that they had found a good material and were discussing how to refine weapons. Chu Feng was the first to run away. Naturally, he was also the first to refine weapons. Yellow Cattle followed him closely because it knew him too well. It guessed that Chu Feng had most likely found something unimaginable. When they reached the peak, Chu Feng handed it over to it at its request. Over 5,000 kilograms? Yellow Cattle was shocked. Ordinary people would not be able to carry such a heavy material. They would be crushed to death immediately. But king-level entities were nothing. Their physiques were too tyrannical. Yellow Cattle used its strongest ability to attack the black material. However, it could not leave a single mark on the material. It was excessively hard. This is a mysterious material buried in the Kunlun Mountains. Could it be that legendary item? Yellow Cattle let out a strange cry. Then, it decisively hugged it in its bosom, wanting to devour it. Damn cow, give it to me! Chu Feng fought over it. In the end, Yellow Cattle gave it back to Chu Feng. Because it was afraid of alarming the other beast kings, it hurriedly asked the weaponry refinement sacred tree to refine it. What kind of weapon do you need? The weaponry refinement sacred tree asked. Although it had just gained consciousness, it was very clear about what it was and what it was capable of. According to Yellow Cattle, this ancient tree was a pity. It had been crippled in the past, leaving behind only its withered roots. It had only been revived now. Such a heavy object was not suitable for refining flying knives. Chu Feng could not control it. He could not even carry it through the air. Can a weapon be refined again after it has been finalized? Chu Feng asked. Otherwise, it would be a real headache. He had not yet thought of a suitable weapon for himself. Yes, the weaponry refinement sacred tree replied. Chu Feng lowered his head and saw the shiny metal bracelet on his wrist. This was what Lu Tong had given him in the hollow jade temple. It was called the diamond chakram. This was a material he had brought back from a strange silver mine outside of Shuntian City. It was extremely hard. Then help me refine it into the diamond chakram, Chu Feng said, gesturing to the weaponry refinement sacred tree. A branch extended from the tree, lifting the black material and bringing it to the crown of the tree. Even if the material weighed thousands of kilograms, the weaponry refinement sacred tree could still bear it. The next moment, a fist-sized flower bud on the ancient tree bloomed. Pollen sprinkled down and touched the black material. The weaponry refinement sacred tree waited for a while, but the material did not change at all. Pup. Next, a second flower bud bloomed and pollen sprinkled down again. However, the black material did not change at all. Pop, pop, pop. After 10 flower buds had bloomed, Yellow Ox's eyes widened in astonishment. According to the records, a flower of this level was an extremely rare and precious material. However, there was still no change to the black material. The weaponry refinement sacred tree seemed to be losing face. Between its branches, flower buds bloomed one after another. In the end, there were more than 100 flowers swaying and sprinkling pollen down. At this time, the black material finally changed. With a rustling sound, the black powder fell continuously, revealing the snow-white luster within. Yellow Cattle was shocked. The black outer layer was already so hard. What was the snow-white material inside? How precious was it? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.